Reveille, reveille.
Look at us now, tip to tip.
Ooh, Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
Shout out to us doing what we love. It's time to bang. Oh, yeah. You feeling what I'm feeling? Hey, whoa. Hey, how are you?
Diarrhea?
Yeah, that's what it is. Hey, it's Monday, February 24th, 2025. You just stumbled in upon the greatest combat show that they ever put together. This is Morning Kombat. I'm Brian Campbell. I'm wearing a scarf because it's either hot as balls or colder than a witch's nipple in this place.
I prefer the word titty.
Titay, yes. That's Luke Thomas from Washington, D.C.
What's up?
I can't hear myself in my, there we go,
okay?
in my ear hole. I figured it out all right.
Got to get the side tone.
Thank you for helping me learn how to tie a scarf. I didn't wear scarves growing up. I didn't wear sunglasses either. I was raised under power lines, apparently. But we've got a fantastic show for all you combat sports and flatulence fans out there. You better believe that. UFC Seattle to break down.
That's right.
The last crescendo, Bivol, Beterbiev 2, and quite possibly, or at least that's what they told us, the greatest fight card that ever was put together. Well, this is the greatest combat sports show that you've ever seen. LT, sum up your emotional state in 2 words, because that'll let the audience know what type of episode to expect.
You overstate the problem. Pretty good. You know what? Here is a great demarcation line for whether or not I'm feeling like I got hit by a Mack truck.
Yes.
It is typically better for me
to walk in with a pink monster.
No.
Okay.
I slept to the alarm this morning.
Oh, wow.
Normally, I have such anxiety that I'm up around 3:34.
Anxiety for MK or life or
I'd say in general,
or
my
death.
life,
Anxiety for death.
yeah,
yes.
anxiety for my life falling apart and being, just a disaster that I did not predict. Nevertheless, I slept to the alarm, and that rarely happens. And I slept to the alarm today, so feel pretty good about that.
That means we're going to have a great show, right? We're going to end it with some DMs from Donks. We're going to look at my feces, pick out a few of them kernels in there. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Now I want to go home.
Yeah, you can do something for us, by the way, if you enjoy the show on the regular. How about liking the episode? How about subscribing to our channel on YouTube? There are our social handles as well as our YouTube channels. Please support what we're doing above and beyond the MK community. This week on the Brian Campbell Experience, Lamont Roach Jr., by the way, who's in a big one. Yeah, you can catch that.
I talked to him a while ago, about a month or so
You
ago.
talked to him in between when the fight was rescheduled, right?
That's right. So I actually did the interview, and then like days later, they pushed it to, which is today, or this week's
March 1st, Saturday.
March 1st deadline,
Yep.
yeah.
So that'll be going down, obviously, PBC
Awesome.
on Prime Saturday when Roach takes
When is
on
your interview going up?
Tank Davis. It'll go up today.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah,
I'll
so
take a
check that out. Also, we have a third member of the team. He's a producer, director, bong enthusiast, and he's from Long Island, and he's from the seed of an Australian. His name is Luke Nocita.
Yeah, he's from the old ball sack down under.
Yeah, of the main card minute. Hey, bro, how are you?
I like how we're 5 minutes into the show and we're talking about your father's testicles.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be MK if we didn't talk about Dad's ball sack.
Yeah. All right, hey, that's the show. That's what we do here. Wow, yeah.
Just one day we should do an entire episode of BC's Feces. Just 2 hours of looking at highlights and talking about smoking weed.
That would be great. Then we'd be let go. But that's fine.
Large
you know what
asses on women.
Would you say it's a great time to be alive in combat sports right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be thankful for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Consistently full of weekends where you have fights. I think there's a question about what kind of quality we're getting week to week. But
Saturday's boxing card, for as long as it was fun.
I
mean, we'll get
let
into
me ask
it.
you this. I don't know how much we're going to talk about it, so let me just ask you this. Do you like that they ultimately tried to save the Parker fight and the Shakur fight? Did we need to see those?
I
Was
don't.
it better that we did see them?
I think it would have been better if we didn't, but I get why they wanted to try to keep up what they were promoting, which was the greatest fight card of the century. And Bacoli got paid. We're going to break it all down, but no, it's a gamble when you do that. We're not used to that in boxing to do, the 48-hour get on a plane right now, no training camp, right? It's a move UFC pulls off. It doesn't always work though.
So let me ask you a question about this, because I got Mark Ortega on Twitter.
Yes.
He works for Fox Sports.
He's also he does stats for the PBC broadcast.
Yeah, he knows an enormous amount of boxing. I could never know as much about him, but he asked a question about MMA, and I didn't have a good answer. Very quickly, Long Island Luke, here is the conditions I'm applying. Obviously, if you're talking about like what's the most successful case for a fight that the fans got to enjoy from a late minute replacement, or I should say late replacement, the answer is probably going to be something like Diaz versus McGregor 1, right? Where he comes in on short notice and it's like this insanely,
Or Lennox
over-delivers.
Lewis versus Vladimir Klitschko in 2003 is probably the best boxing example of when it got upgraded by a late replacement.
Okay, so here's my question for MMA. That actually happened outside of a window that I'm going to put on you artificially. If the window is 72 hours out from a fight, what's the best UFC fight that they have substituted in under those conditions?
I don't remember the exact time frame, but I'm thinking of it was peak COVID International Fight Week, I want to say, and Kamaru was supposed to be fighting like Gilbert Burns, but Jorge Masvidal was like the clear contender, and then Gilbert had to pull out, and then Masvidal jumped in. It was on like a week.
Yeah, but that fight sucked because the rematch was
no,
the
but
one
that
he
was like a
slept
fight
on.
people were clamoring for at the time.
No,
and
well,
they were
there's
like, why
difference
is Burns
between-
getting-
yeah.
I mean, what delivered?
I mean, I could say Daniel Cormier against Anderson Silva at
But that
UFC
fight didn't
200, but
deliver
that fight
either.
didn't
No,
deliver.
that fight
yeah.
sucked. Yeah.
So I guess here's my question for anyone out there, anybody listening, either boxing or
Ooh,
MMA.
wait, I got one. How
Okay.
about Bisping over Rockhold? It was supposed to be Rockhold Weidman. Bisping steps in, wins
But that
the
wasn't a
belt.
3-day thing. It was like a couple week thing.
Yeah,
I
it was a
believe.
couple weeks because I had him on my
Right.
show. See, that's what I mean. If you get 2 weeks out, there's some real bangers
Sure,
out there.
because
It's-
guys are in and out of camp. But when you're picking somebody literally off the couch who wasn't even training,
Yeah.
that's what you get.
Yeah, so if anyone out there can think of what's the best fight, either boxing or MMA, that got substituted in 72 hours and ended up delivering. I don't know what the answer is, but something to think
Yeah,
about.
yeah. Not Nate Diaz, Tony Ferguson, but they did try hard, all right? And we're going to try really hard on this show to absolutely give it to you right in the damn face hole. So why don't you buckle your ass up because our show is about to start right the frick now. Yes, and a reminder, by the way, this fantastic episode of Morning Combat is brought to you by DraftKings. And at DraftKings, you already know it. The crown is yours. Let's get into topic number one on this Monday morning and a loaded fight weekend to break down. And you want to talk about what was the biggest headline this weekend? It certainly was the rematch in the desert, the light heavyweight undisputed title clash. 4 months, 123 days after Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol gave us 12 rounds in what some have called, Luke, the first fight. You ready for this? Some have called it a technical thriller, the first fight, okay?
You also called Strickland versus DDP a technical thriller.
The first one, yeah, and I stand by it. Okay. Now let's talk about the second one. Same judges' scorecards in the end, only they were inverted as Dmitry Bivol gains revenge over Artur Beterbiev just barely to become the undisputed champion and just possibly set up a trilogy. So, Luke, let's talk about this. Considering the rematch was scored the exact same way as the first fight, a majority decision with the scores inverted, 114 to 114, 116, 112, and 115, 113. What was the major difference in your eyes between the two fights, and what did Bivol ultimately do to flip the victory in his direction?
It's a great question. I think that there are going to be two things I'm going to point to that I think will answer the question. The first one is I compare the stats between the first fight and the second fight. I won't go through a litany of them, but this will speak to what I think is a central way to understand why this fight ended up going differently. In all of the categories that CompuBox measures, and there's not many, total punches, total jabs, total
Body
power
shots.
punches, body shots, Bivol outlanded Beterbiev in all of them. In all of them in the second fight. In the first fight, it was mixed. And especially in the first fight, the power punches went predominantly to Beterbiev. That was not the case this time. I bring this all up to say, just watching it, and we watched this fight now several times,
Sure.
the two of us, he simply did more. He was on his horse more. He was throwing more multi-punch combinations. He was trying to pick off Beterbiev as he was intercepting, as he was trying to corner him. And there were so many times where he was able to reverse position into the corner, and then what is he doing? He gets underneath the punch, turns around, and it's a 4-punch combination right behind it. So it's just staying busy, creating rhythm, putting more volume on him, staying on your horse the whole time.
Well, didn't he do what he said? Meaning that the first fight, the main difference was that Bivol faded in the championship rounds.
I'm getting to it.
This time he
Getting to
said,
it.
what did he say all week? I have to do more. That's
Right.
right in line with what you're saying.
Although he did fade a little bit in the middle portion
Yes.
of that fight. But this is going to be the second one. I don't know if it was concerted that he wanted to fade in the middle portion, but it did look concerted to me, BC, that this time down the stretch, and you could even start this at the 7th round. I think the turn really starts around the 8th round.
Sure.
Bivol decided, I am absolutely going to put it on him down the stretch. Whatever my work rate was early, we're going to go even higher. And actually, the numbers speak to this directly. That's when you see the floodgates open and he really begins to take away the very portion of the fights that Beterbiev didn't do just well in the last one with Bivol. In all of them, it's always down the stretch that he begins to really take over. You see, that's an oversimplification.
Sure.
But what I'm trying to point out to people is whether it was intercepting Beterbiev by pulling him in, catching him on the half beat and going the other direction, whether it was, by the way, going over the top of his jab, getting him to cover with touch, digging to the body, coming over, and then angling out. He just made him suffer from having to block. He made him have to restart. He made him have to cover up. He made him just have to deal with an enormous amount of volume in all the different phases.
Sure.
And then when you combine with a certain kind of like when we're going to press the gas, when we're going to press the brake, and take away the very sweet spot where he comes alive, dude, that is, I mean, Eddie Hearn was saying it's the best performance he's ever seen live, and only he can say what is the best he's ever seen live. We were watching it on a screen. I don't know if it's the best one. That's a little hard for me to say. But what I can say is that is one of the most difficult things I've seen a boxer do.
He almost had to be
for 12
perfect,
rounds.
and he almost was perfect.
Yes.
Because Beterbiev, as we know, the gas tank even at age 40 is ridiculous. The power in both hands is ridiculous. The understanding of boxing IQ and adjustments is ridiculous. The fact that they could stand so close to each other and just barely hit or not hit each other, it's the best form of high-speed chess I've ever seen. So Bivol had to be almost perfect to win this fight 7-5 or however you had it. Right? I had Bivol 7-5 in the first fight. I had Bivol 7-5 in the second, but it was a different fight from the first fight.
Also, we didn't mention this. I mentioned him getting out of the corner, but like if you just look at how much time, if you go back and you watch the first fight relative to the second fight, there's much more time with Bivol on the ropes.
Sure.
Man, he treated it like it was an electric fence this time. He barely touched it. And there was, again, a couple times in the corner, a couple times he had to kind of weather a little bit of a storm, but he was quickly looking for exits and then usually scoring offense on the exit itself. Man,
Dude,
that made all the difference.
The pace was insane
Pace
in
was
this
ridiculous.
fight.
I
The
wanna say
skill
something-
level combined, insane in this fight.
And we should say something too, BC, about this fight, which was, it was kind of funny because if you watched this fight and then you took a break and then you went to UFC, different sports, different realities. Please don't misunderstand me.
Different pay scales.
Different pay scales. Just everything's different. And I'm not even trying to bag on one versus the other. What I am going to say, though, is in this fight, and in the boxing more in particular, but especially this fight, dude, their defense was insane. How hard is it to land clean on either guy? Now, I know Bivol by the end had a big swelling here and he was bleeding.
Well, he overcame a 12th round from Beterbiev, which was like a championship last round performance to put it on.
That was after, 33 minutes.
Right. But I'm saying he
essentially.
got the cut from that, but
Yes.
but really his face wasn't nearly as marked up as Beterbiev's was outside of that cut.
Right. So, but also that's just accumulation. Like what was your favorite punch? There's a couple that landed in both directions. Oh, by the way, I thought Beterbiev did have some good body work in the middle of this fight.
Oh, a lot of good body work.
But
yeah.
honestly, if we're saying what was the best about this fight, to me, obviously the work rate of Bivol, but second to that was both of their defenses. Both of their defenses were so hard for the other guy to make
at close
any
range,
on.
at close range and high pace. Like you have to realize the skill level involved in this fight. It was ridiculous. Luke, I do have a question. I preferred the first fight slightly, even with Bivol openly fading in the later rounds, because I felt there were more. I felt like Bivol hurt Beterbiev a couple times in the first fight, and I felt like that was a big surprise. And there were it felt a little more tense. But everybody on Twitter thinks the second one was better. Do you have a favorite between these twins here?
I probably like the second one better, but not by much. I think they're pretty close.
Okay, key strategic question here. The theory in the first fight, even though Beterbiev got his hand raised, but a lot of us didn't think he did, was he was coming like directly off of knee surgery and didn't even have a full camp. Even though this was a short turnaround for a big fight like this, 4 months, did he either let you down, Beterbiev? Did he get beat by a better guy? Or specifically, when he dominated rounds 4 through 6, did he pour out too much of the jug in trying to finish Bivol? Not trying to finish him recklessly, but stepping up at such an aggressive pace. If you remember particularly in rounds 4 through 6, anytime Bivol would gain separation, Beterbiev would rush back up on him. And he had to expend a lot of energy. In hindsight, was he going for the knockout, and did he pour too much out?
I wonder about that. I mean, the other part, too, is Beterbiev is 40.
Yes.
He's 40 years old. I mean, the fact that he looks as good as he does and performs as ably as he does. And by the way, as you mentioned, looked good in the 12th round. Like, this was not a guy who just laid down the stretch, even though he had some difficulty. But he is 40. I tended to think that was the biggest one. Like, how good can, like, you're looking at what is probably something approximating in terms of genetic potential. And obviously, if you maximize genetic potential with insane work rate and insane training habits, and obviously you take care of your body and you don't drink and all that kind of stuff, Artur Beterbiev is what it looks like at 40 if you take extraordinarily good care of yourself. But even then, ... it is 40. To me, like, the foot speed and the ability to move around the ring, you knew that Bivol was better, but this time he did a better job of maintaining that. And Beterbiev just seemed to have a really hard time closing the doors on him, with a couple of exceptions here or there.
I agree. Overall, Bivol would outland, according to CompuBox, 170 to 121. He scored double-figure lands in 11 of 12 rounds, outlanded Beterbiev in 5 of the last 6 rounds to close and survive that 12th round rally from Beterbiev. And on average, compared to the first fight, Bivol averaged 11 more punches attempted per round. So he backed up what he said, to do more, to push the fight at Beterbiev more. But Bivol had to not just hold him off in the 12th round. The rounds 4 through 6, dude, he looked like he was going to succumb, Bivol, at certain points. He looked like,
round 5
it was wearing him down.
Round 5, I was like, Beterbiev was moving downhill on him.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, is Beterbiev going to not only build him the last win, is he going to stop him? And then for Bivol to basically kind of rally, it was even-ish, but to kind of rally was remarkable.
Well, look, Bivol right now, 34 years old, already coming into this fight, even coming off of a loss in my top 10 pound for pound. Now he has victories over a prime Canelo Alvarez, one division up from Canelo's, greatest, and Artur Beterbiev. So we are talking already about 2 living legends, 2 future Hall of Famers in this fight. But that resume just screams greatness, considering everybody else he's beaten up to this point. And look, it meant so much to Bivol because he gave everything he thought he had in the first fight and came up that close. We got him backstage here with his coach. So let's check out this emotional scene when he returned to the locker room. That's Gennady Mashianov, his trainer. You know I pop for these moments, Luke.
Yeah, these are big ones.
That's just the tears coming down. Hey, I didn't even know if Katie Bivol did, his estranged ex-wife. I don't even know if she did a stream this time, one of those. Like, remember last time she did that, live stream? But, you did hear him say afterwards, he said, I've been going through a lot the last couple of years, injuries, all of that. And for him to put together this performance in this fight, Dmitry Bivol is one of the greatest fighters of this era. So is Beterbiev. But, Luke, we got to talk about the future here. First, I think we do have Bivol responding backstage to the fight. Let's just get his take on that.
First fight, I didn't like how I did. Second fight, I like more. I feel I could more. I could be better even than this one. Wow. I feel it, but I did enough for the victory today, and I'm happy. Thank you so much, everybody who was watching this fight, who was cheering for me, even who was cheering for Beterbiev. He's a great fighter, and only you can make history about yourself only if you have great opponents. Without good opponents, you cannot prove people that you are good.
Yeah, Dmitry, thank you.
Dude, that's
that is
100. That's the Shakur Stevenson problem right now, right? Isn't it?
That's if every boxer had that attitude, it would be a different
But
sport.
he's right. He was lifted to that performance because of the greatness of Beterbiev, because of how great Bivol fought the first fight and still came up empty, yet was able to unlock another level of stamina, of drive, of everything to do it. This was incredible. Now, though, it seems like we've set the stage for a third fight. Turki Alalshikh, who, of course, was ringside and paid for this bout and organized it, was walking around with 3 fingers, parted up to Beterbiev. Interesting post-fight interview where Beterbiev said, I didn't want the rematch. So now that I lost, I might as well take this third fight. But do I want it necessarily? He didn't sound like he did. I mean, he is 40 years old at the end of his career. But Bivol said he's into it, but he really put out there, he said, look, I need time off. He said that the turnaround, 123 days, now 24 rounds against Beterbiev when no one had gone the distance with Beterbiev before that. That's a lot of wear and tear. He said he was doing anti-inflammatories every day in training camp, and there was a lot of injury and illness, which I'm sure both fighters are definitely going through. So will we see this next? Should we see this next? How much time off do you think they need? And let's also address this. 24 hours before the card, they went from a 20,000 seat arena, Kingdom Arena, to this
25,000.
to this makeshift. I forgot. I think they're calling it Riyadh Citizen Arena or something like that. It's got 6,000. It wasn't an Apex warehouse, but it was not it was not the space to house the greatest fight card of all time or this incredible rematch. There's already some big moneymaker in Russia who's trying to bring that fight because these are two Bivol born on Kyrgyzstan soil, but two Russian fighters. Where should the third fight be? When should it be? And should it be next, in your opinion?
I think the third fight, I mean, obviously I would love it in the United States, but it doesn't really need to be there. I would say, if they wanted to put it in Russia, that would be great. But if you're trying to maximize timing for it to be watched, you could put it in the Middle East again, or somewhere in continental Europe. I think continental Europe would be really an interesting opportunity.
But, I mean, maybe this is a better question for topic 2, but like, can they get away, meaning Saudi Arabia, putting out fight cards this big with that atmosphere that did feel dead? It did?
I've seen people being like, I thought the atmosphere was great. Guys, if you thought that atmosphere was great, you've only been watching fights for 5 minutes. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, those fights have been in the Apex.
Yeah, I'm not here to say that crowd was the worst I've ever seen, far from it, but it was modest and kind of quiet at best. It was not good. You want to put it in place where people can travel, where there's going to be ruckus. Dude, I mean, honestly, with the amount of Russians in New York City, dude, there'd be more Russians in New York City than there would be in Saudi Arabia. Let me just say that very, very clearly. And they wouldn't even have to travel, all the ones that are here over in, in Sheepshead Bay and all that kind of stuff. So, when they should do it, though, is a different question. I honestly think that should be third or probably even fourth quarter of this year. But to be honest, I don't even want to see that one. I mean, yes, if they made a third one.
Well, I was going to ask if we have fatigue here. We saw 2 great fights back to back. They looked a lot alike.
You have a new guy in this weight class. Again, after the Vosdick fight, I wasn't exactly sure, but after the Morrell fight, I'm very sure. David Benavidez, all roads lead. Well, I mean, obviously, Bivol's the champ, but as a next fight, to me, all roads lead to David Benavidez.
All right, I have scenarios to pitch to you based off of that, okay? Right. Number 1, if they go forward, which it seems like Turkey's plan with a third fight with Beterbiev and Bivol, at some point later this year, I would not hate to see David Benavidez stay at light heavyweight and fight Callum Smith, who had a big win on this undercard, and we can talk about that. How about this scenario that I threw out and people have loved and hated? I want to hear what Luke has to say. Bivol Canelo 2 next, and Benavidez Beterbiev next, but only under the understanding and the contract signing that the winners would face off and the losers would face off. People say, hey, you don't want to reward Canelo for ducking, but Canelo wants this fight more than anything, the rematch with Bivol, and now you got all 4 titles at stake.
I dare. Look at me as closely as you can. I dare someone to try and make the case Canelo can win 3 rounds.
I'm not saying he will win it. I'm saying is that
washed. What are we talking about here? He lost. He didn't get washed in the first fight, but he lost convincingly. Bivol has only gotten better. Canelo, to the best of my ability to assess, has somewhat degraded. He'll get fucking rinsed.
Okay, quickly, I want to talk about that first Canelo Bivol fight because we do say pretty regularly that he got handled. The reality is he lost 7-5 on 3 scorecards, but we don't believe that was the real score. He got a Canelo discount because of his name. The reality is what? He probably lost 8-4. Could he go 9-3?
I thought he won 4 rounds at most.
But I think what we're missing, and a lot of the internet is missing when rehashing it, is it was actually competitive. Canelo made Bivol miss like nobody else has. And I know eventually that rope-a-dope style caught up with Canelo, and he took a beating in the second half. But I don't think it was a one-sided beatdown, even though I don't agree with the 7-5 scorecards.
I don't think it was a beatdown.
It was a competitive fight.
I don't think it's a beatdown.
And Canelo had the injury.
But I'm going to say it one more time. Somebody make the case that Canelo's chances will improve with a second fight.
Okay.
That seems to me completely ludicrous.
I didn't enter this studio today to be a Canelo protector because he's ducking the shit out of David Benavidez. Tell your friends, okay? But that was during the stretch where Canelo looked human and he had the left hand and wrist injury and he wasn't able to train at full speed. So I do wonder if it could be different. You don't like the second half of that equation I pitched you? Because Canelo doesn't want to go straight into Benavidez or Beterbiev.
Sorry, you meant the Benavidez.
Benavidez versus Beterbiev.
I would take that fight. My interest in Canelo Bivol 2 is 0.
Okay, that's fair.
It's -8 billion.
That's fair, Luke.
That's what it is.
What do we say about these two, this rivalry? I see historians who I respect a lot more than me, like Cliff Rold on Twitter, say that these two are approaching Michael Spinks for the greatest resume in light heavyweight history in boxing. Wow. That, the winner of the trilogy could make some type of statement that they're in that category. this was never going to be a major commercial rivalry. These two don't, they're not household names in the United States under any degree. But the greatness, and for Beterbiev, especially late in age right now, that they're showing, they're all-timers. They're living legends in the flesh. These two are two of the greatest fighters I've ever seen with my eyes in active competition. I think that's fair to say.
I think that's fair to say, and I also think it's fair to say that there are some fights that remain for them in these weight classes, in particular, as you mentioned, Benavidez, or a third fight with each other. Canelo.
What about cruiserweight? Bivol's talking about cruiserweight this week.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because to me, obviously with Beterbiev at 40, I think we have to have some. Again, he still looks pretty viable, but he's 40. It's just hard to say how much longer he's got. Some time, obviously, but not a ton. Whereas Bivol has, if he wants, it seems to me a significant amount of time. And I do think, if he fights Benavidez, and I'm just going to invent a scenario. If he rinses Benavidez, which I don't think that would happen that way, but let's just say, wins 8 rounds to 4, whatever. I think he should move up. We put so much pressure on these little guys to go from 30 to 35 to 40 to 47. And this is very, very difficult to do. And then when we get to the heavier ones, we're like, well, these guys can just camp out. And please don't misunderstand me. Even if they just camp out in this weight class, they're still turning into the point that you raised, historically good resumes. But I think it's a little bit, we're gonna ask the little guys to do some jumping. We should ask the big guys to maybe do some jumping as well. I think especially for Dmitry Bivol, that's something he should be.
I think his speed would be a problem for the major cruiserweights. Jai Opetaia seems to be the highest class cruiserweight, and that'd be a great fight, and that'd probably be the one they would angle toward building should Bivol move up. But he's going to be able to outbox these guys, I would think.
I don't think any of those those cruiserweights are. Dude, who at I keep saying light heavyweight. Who at cruiserweight is as skilled as Dmitry Bivol? Nobody. And there's some good fighters up there. There is nobody who is doing anything like that. So the only question is, how much does the size impact? How much does the power punching impact? What does all of that do? But that, to me, raises the intrigue, not minimizes it.
Is there any chance, whether it be injury or change of opinion or anything, that we're getting Bivol Benavidez next? And don't forget, they have the sparring history with Benavidez claiming without bragging that I handled him.
So it certainly depends what kind of fight we get next based on whether or not PBC wants to play ball.
That's it. Because you and I talked off camera about that Turkey live interview on the DAZN broadcast.
What happened?
With Ali Oladipo, which I think was a very, very awkward interview, which was, overplaying the greatest card play, but maybe they had to, I don't know. But I think the biggest takeaway we have to have is Turkey looking into the camera and saying, I want to make Beterbiev versus Benavidez. This was before Bivol won, so he was saying it, meaning if Bivol won, it would be a trilogy, but if Beterbiev won, it would be 2-0, so he'd move out from that rivalry. And he looked at the camera and said, Heyman, let's go, let's make the fight. So, there's not a long history, Luke, of people challenging the great Al Heyman in that regard. Do you feel like this will make the PBC more or less likely to do business? I think that's the right question right now, because I wonder if you loop in the fact that there was a PBC fighter on this card, Carlos Adames, and we'll get into the circumstances of that fight, but a lot of people think he got kind of robbed on the scorecards. I wonder if that all plays into the future. PBC is the only major promoter that's not all the way in, it would seem, right?
Definitely.
Like Rolly will be on a ring card coming up. We've seen a couple guys jump over, but I don't know if this means this is the beginning or the ending based on that type of comment publicly.
I'd be speaking totally out of turn here. I have no idea what PBC would do, but I have a feeling that, PBC letting guys like Carlos Adames moonlight or Rolly Romero doesn't seem like a big ask of them. But one of your most important headliners in David Benavidez, surely PBC would want to control that. And I don't know if Turkey wants to play ball in that way. It seems like two different kinds of entities that, as it relates to someone like David Benavidez, they all want to have it their way. And
with Canelo moving out of the States for 3 of his next 4 fights, right? He's supposed to be fighting Crawford this September in Vegas, possibly Allegiant Stadium. I wonder if David Benavidez in PBC looks at that as, you're the new American Canelo. You're the next successor in taking the 2 big dates in Vegas, right? I mean,
someone has to cater to the Mexican fans, and if Canelo is going to punt, I mean, someone's going to run that one back.
I wonder if we see and I'm just speculating as a boxing fan, but if we saw PBC still run that May 3rd date in Vegas, maybe with Benavidez and Pitbull on that card, that'd be interesting.
That to me would signal a lot.
That would be interesting, but what a performance from Bivol. What a fight. But let's transition now.
By the way, we didn't say Beterbiev performed well too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Obviously, he didn't perform as well relative to the first fight. And even then, I think even if you thought he won the first fight, this was not that.
Yes.
But, dude, I mean, Bivol had to fucking work. He had to work. There's so many times, watch how many times you just see stuff bouncing off of the gloves. I mean, and then to be right on top of him and then catching all that stuff. If you listen, I've barely trained, but if you've trained even a little bit, you know how insanely difficult it is to move into an opponent. And they're, by the way, an accurate puncher, and you have to catch everything and then throw.
Dude, he's a
It's fucking
brilliant.
hard.
Beterbiev is a brilliant boxer for a guy whose reputation was, I knock out everybody that gets in the ring with me. I mean, it's just crazy. He's had an injury-plagued career. He didn't get into the pros until late after a big amateur career, but he's maximized the time. He's a great fighter. He did have his first loss. Are you okay with him when Bivol tried to extend the handshake in the middle of the ring after the fight and Benavidez or Beterbiev said, no, let's wait till after the third fight?
Yeah, I don't care about that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Let's go into topic number
listen,
2.
He didn't say he wanted to smoke meth with Hitler. I mean, or no,
Pre-meth.
he wanted to go fishing with
Pre-meth.
pre-meth Hitler.
Yes,
so, you know.
yes. That's aggressively awful. But we'll talk about GN Silva about that, or Lord Silva pretty soon on that. Topic number 2, though, is focusing on the rest of this super card. And look, in totality, well done, Turkey. This was a big event outside of some bad pacing off the start. It began to pace itself quick. Obviously, if fights are going to be hit or miss, you can't control that. But I want to see what Luke Thomas feels about whether the fight card of the century lived up to the pre-fight expectations. These were the biggest pre-fight expectations we've ever seen. It was literally called the greatest fight card of the century. So, Luke, even with the late changes to 2 of the 7 fights, even with the change in venue 48 or 24 hours before, how would you give a letter grade to the last Crescendo pay-per-view in totality when we take into account match quality, pacing, entertainment, the broadcast, everything, the crowd, everything that goes into it? How do we grade coming out of the last Crescendo?
I think B+, A- is probably somewhere around there. Let's talk about the good. First of all, the pacing. Fuck, they made an improvement.
No post-fight interviews for those first few fights, right?
They made a huge improvement on post-fight.
They waited an hour, though, be fair. For an hour, they talked in circles and then had a 2-0 guy face a guy who was 4-44-3.
Yeah, I mean, early they were playing more fuck games, but as the card moved along, they moved along.
Yes.
I just don't. Listen, we can kill them for a lot of things. You cannot kill them for pacing on this card.
It was
It
wonderful.
was so much better when they. And by the way, you know how they put out times ahead of time. Hey, they were ahead of schedule doing that. I mean, that was very, very impressive by them. So that was great. Second of all, I still don't think the crowd was good at all, but moving it from a bigger venue to a smaller venue certainly maximized whatever you were going to get from that crowd. That was a good decision. So there's that. I also think I liked some of the way the production elements looked. I liked the ring and the lighting
I do
around
too,
it.
yes.
I thought it was interesting. They had the round timer on the ring post. Did you see that?
I did, and they did a much bigger platform for the ring to sit on.
Like the apron.
Yes.
So I thought all of that looked cool. They were trying to advance it. The big screen and the walkout, all of that was great.
The celebrities in attendance, that's pretty great to see AJ and Usyk laughing it and mucking it up at ringside.
Yeah,
I like all that.
It didn't feel like, I remember for the first time when we saw Anthony Joshua fight in the rematch, Andy Ruiz, remember it was Battle of the Dunes?
Yes.
And there were celebrities left and right for that one. It seemed like a star-studded affair. This one seemed very Apex-y, relatively speaking. Now, listen, main event delivered. Co-main event didn't need to happen. I appreciate that they tried.
Let's get into this.
Out of it.
Let's stay with the co-main event. So Joseph Parker, who was originally going to challenge the IBF champion Daniel Dubois. Dubois falls ill like 48 hours before. Martin Bakole is in the Congo, his home country. He's 315 pounds. He wasn't in camp, even though he's got a fight with F.A. Ajagba scheduled for May in Times Square, and Turkey said that fight's still going to happen. And he had to take so many flights that he didn't get in until 2:30 a.m. the night before the fight, Friday night. And you can't say negative about anything about Joseph Parker. He's under a career resurgence at the moment. And he went in there, and in 2 rounds, it was a kind of a weird sequence. He lands a big right hand on Bakole. Bakole kind of shakes his head and laughs at it. And then it's a grazing follow-up right hand that gets him in the temple. It's a delayed reaction. You see a Humpty Dumpty falling. But then the corner jumps right up and throws in the towel. There's reports that Bakole was paid $4 million to get on the plane and do this. And it was obvious that his corner, knowing he didn't even train for the fight, were basically like, okay, we saw him get hurt. That's enough. should the fight have happened?
No.
I mean, you didn't need the fight. The fight card was so loaded that if you just had the main event, the Ortiz-Madrimov fight, and one or two others, you're still
Fine.
looking at one of the
Fine.
greatest boxing pay-per-view cards of all time.
Yes, fine. I mean, here's my problem with that. We talked about it to open the show with Long Island Luke, which is something interesting happened last week during Fight Week, BC. And I'm sure you picked up on this. All of the marketing around the event was less about the rematch in the main event, and it was more about the card itself.
Yes.
There was all of this pushing of, look, it's the biggest card. Look at how great this card is. Let's compare historical Don King cards. And again, even with those comparisons, it does compare favorably across eras. So it's not by no means a bad card, a very, very good card. But I'm just saying all of the promotional focus was centered on making sure that messaging got out to the broader public. And even during the broadcast, you heard that as well. What's interesting to me is when they replace these guys and they talk about the fight card, Turkey is taking a lesson from the Ultimate Fighting Championship. That is what is happening here. They want to be able to show, like, obviously Saudi wealth makes it possible to just call up Martin Bakole, pay him $4 million, fly him out last minute and do it. They can do it.
Or call up Josh Padley, who fought Shakur Stevenson on 5 days' notice or 4, and buy him a house. That was literally what they did for him.
Although he was in better shape. I mean, he
no,
tried.
sure, but I'm
He
saying
tried.
like they're literally
Yes.
going to those lengths to get this.
Okay, but people think it's just Saudi wealth, but it's not. The expectation to be able to pull that off was set by the Ultimate Fighting Championship, who Turkey obviously has a close relationship with as well. And so what I'm trying to bring up to is, to me, this entire focus on how great is the card, how great is the card, how great is the card, it's not an irrelevant concern by any stretch of the imagination, but the overemphasis relative to even the main event, to me, is a misapplication
I agree.
of how we should be looking at things, which is a function of taking practices from MMA. And this is the last thing I want to say about it, to the point that Long Island Luke raised earlier. It's not even clear that those practices in MMA yield better returns anyway. So the point I'm trying to make is, when people talk about a great fight card, it's a totally relevant way to ask a question. But the real way to ask it is, what was the main event and did that deliver? That's still always going to be the primary area of concern.
I'll agree with that, and I don't think your grade is bad. I still think you can score the whole thing an A- because it had a gluttony of entertaining fights. It was paced well, and there were stretches of just like those first 3 important fights, starting with the Callum Smith Joshua Buatsi fight. I mean, it just kept escalating. They were exciting. They were all kind of had different storylines to them. So all in all, like, I'm here like everybody else to praise Turkey. Like, this was awesome. This was a gift to boxing. But I do think there's limits to that praising / glazing, Luke. Like, what Turkey's doing for the sport is huge and amazing, and we're getting huge events, and in such a disjointed sport is finding some forms of organization right now. But like, the on-screen glazing is it's a negative. It's a turnoff. How do we deal with that, Luke?
What do you mean?
Like, it's like this man's taking his nation's huge wealth and entertainment fund, and they have a specific goal of using boxing to put forth their message, and it's working, and there's a lot to love about it. But there's this glazing of like Santa Claus / Jesus / insert whatever name, whatever deity you want, of like, thank you for saving everything, and isn't this the greatest thing everyone's ever seen? They could just tone that down, and it can be more about the fights. I think that's a better formula.
Listen, everyone in combat sports, and in particular boxing, will sell their butthole to the highest bidder. I've never seen, you could walk into a home filled with prostitutes and you won't find as many whores as you will in the sport of boxing. Hold on.
Wow. Well, you're right. You're right.
The
But
sport
wow.
the sport of boxing has revealed that the vast majority of the people inside of it are absolute money-grubbing, avarice-motivated whores. Whores.
And by the way, that was true when the sport was disorganized the last 25 years,
Yeah.
and it's true now.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, no.
it's-
They're just cashing in on better
Yes.
opportunities to be a whore now, but they've always been whores. What I think about it is, it's just fucking insane. I mean, we get to these things where like the hero worship of people in this sport, and by the way, it's not even organic. This is primed on the pump hero worship, where if you have a broadcast deal with whoever's showing your fight, they're expected to show who you are. If you're Turkey, and he has interviews, and again, Ring Magazine is just pumping out pro-Turkey stuff left and right. It's this cult of personality around him. And again, someone asked me, like, how do you feel about the Saudis being in the sport? And this is the reality, BC, and I think you would agree. It's not one thing or the other. Do I have concerns about monopolization? Sure.
Yes.
Do I have concerns about doing business with the theocratic dictatorship? Yes, of course. However, if I'm just asked, are these good, relevant fights that they're making at a greater clip than would ordinarily be made? There's no argument that's true.
And I do think he's elevating the sport by making it seem more glamorous. The ring gala, those events feel outside of the small arena, which we had a gripe with. They feel royal. They feel like, you know what I mean? Like boxing hasn't felt that in a while. I'm all for that. I just think we got to draw a limit in like show, like have a level of shame in front of us because it's getting very.
It's in boxing right now between people who have microphones. It's an absolute dick sucking competition.
It's gross
for who can swallow the most.
It's gross, but yet it's great for the sport. Well, the payout is great, but it's gross.
I think gratitude for good fights is always well placed.
Yes.
Stop there.
Yes.
Stop there.
Thank you very much. Let's continue on the theme of the replacement. Shakur Stevenson goes in there, not against Floyd Schofield. That's a whole soap opera to itself, and I don't even think it's resolved. And no one even knows really if the Schofields.
By the way, can I ask a question about
from
that
the
to
fight?
you?
Yeah, go ahead.
The Schofield team was saying, well, we're going to be free agents outside of Golden Boy.
Because Golden Boy kind of criticized.
Golden Boy did criticize him. What's the story there? So Floyd is a Golden Boy guy.
He's a Golden Boy fighter, but this was them probably basically being like, well, if you're going to say this about us, then we'll let the world know we're close to the end of our deal.
At the presser, Oscar, who did he apologize to? Turkey?
Shakur, maybe?
Maybe Shakur, something like that. And I guess those guys felt really disrespected by that.
Nobody knows but them at the end of the day if he ducked because they got close to the fight and realized they didn't want it, or if some shenanigans happened did he get drugged, or maybe he just had a bad weight cut. There's a lot of potential options. Either way, I think, like we talked about, Dubois getting sick helped it, even though I'm going to say, and Twitter's obviously full of anything negative you can find, Twitter believes that Dubois pulled out of this fight once he realized that Usyk wants to have the rematch next, and that Saudi's going to go forward with the Dubois rematch
does not
next.
strike me as that discerning.
Right. But like that fight would make sense anyway. And I'd rather have that fight than, let's say, run back Parker Dubois, even though Parker didn't do anything wrong. So again, with the Schofield thing, I don't really know what happened, but I get wanting to leave Shakur on the card. I get, he put in the training camp. He's not going to gain much by just not fighting. But Luke, did we learn anything from the Josh Padley fight outside of people will definitely find more ways to hate Shakur? And it's not like I don't get their criticism or their dislike of Shakur, but I guess I'm come to terms with you're only going to see the best of this guy against the very best. And I know that he hasn't always made the right choices to help him get the very best in the ring, or you can criticize him, sure, for the arenas booing him. But you know what I think of his talent? We got to get a tank fight, and we got to figure out business how to make that fight happen because this division needs it. The sport needs it. Both fighters, I think, need it. Shakur really needs it. It looked like he hurt his left hand. It looked like he weighed the options and thought going for the KO aggressively wasn't going to help him. He still picked the guy apart. He still stopped him. So
the body shots were great.
So afterwards, Padley would say he had no power, and it just adds to people wanting to hate on Shakur. But I don't hate on
Padley. Was getting. I mean, he was getting beaten like a stepchild.
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest about that. He can say what he wants. He was getting tuned up.
Should this fight have happened, though? I mean, the card didn't need it.
I have less issue with this one because Padley was in shape and could actually try. But did it need to happen? Fuck no, it didn't. But for the fact that they were trying to save a fight, would you ever book this fight? Like, for example, Bacoli versus Parker, that's a fight you actually might book under a different circumstance.
It was almost an upgrade. Yes, almost. It wasn't in reality because it wasn't a title fight. But
the Padley fight is a fight you would never make. Now, again, it's different because Bacoli came in looking like the Hamburglar. So fat.
And that doesn't help the sport. It doesn't.
I don't think that matters so much. But the point I'm trying to make is there's different ways in which to try and judge the legitimacy of what call they made. But it just goes back to show that it's almost impossible if you're going to get a late replacement for that fight to be anything what it should have been with whoever the original fighter was on that one. And people have said, oh, well, Kid Schofield would have won that one. He would have made Shakur look bad. That's a maybe. But to me,
the odds didn't say that. Dude.
Yeah. I don't buy that. But okay, people were held to holding that position. But for MMA fans out there, they have very different styles. But it reminds me a little bit of Izzy, where you throw Yoel Romero in there, who's kind of this unrefined guy, and you got a kind of a bad fight. But then when he goes against Robert Whittaker the first time, or when he goes against Paulo Costa, guys who are determined to win, you get a very, very different kind of
like Oscar Valdez.
Right.
Shakur was exciting in exposing and picking him apart.
So this is what I mean. I fully fully agree that if you want to get anything out of the Shakur Stevenson experience, he's got to be pushed. If he's not pushed, I'm not going to say he's going to coast, but he's just not going to necessarily do the things that he only can do special things if special guys make him do it.
And he also has legitimate hand issues like Floyd dealt with in the second half of his career. And he's basically saying publicly, Shakur, now he can only fight twice a year. There's a lot of
I'm not even sure he can fight
repair.
that, to be honest with you, dude.
Well, let's see the tweet as he put it out there. So Gervonta tweeted LOL, and then Shakur quote tweeted and say, stay focused, Lamont ready to tap that chin. So obviously this conversation is built upon Tank has to get through Lamont Roach Jr. first. That's this coming Saturday in Brooklyn on PBC pay-per-view. But Luke, the idea of making this fight realistic, does it go back to that Al Haymon Turkey conversation? I'm not really sure. Like, can this fight be made as a PBC pay-per-view with Stevenson at the Zabit side, or does he have to take short money for that?
Signed to?
He's signed to Eddie Hearn.
You could make that fight.
Or does Turkey say it has to be a Turkey fight?
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Let's hear Shakur talk about what he wants next here.
Well, Shakur Stevenson, that could have been a tricky night with everything that's happened during the week, but you must be delighted with how you got through that.
Yeah, for sure. Once I'm in my rhythm, nobody can stop me. My offense, my defense, I'm very sharp.
What next for you now?
I want the biggest fight in boxing. Gervonta Tank Davis, let's do it, bro. Come on.
Send him a message on Sky Sports for us.
I'm the best fighter in the world. Come prove me wrong.
Well done tonight. Congratulations.
I'm not sure he's not the best pound for pound boxer in the world. Obviously, he doesn't even being a 3-division champion, he doesn't have enough wins to be up there, and he doesn't always give you the performance you're looking for. But he is of those skills. I told you at the turn of this year that this is the fight I wanted to see the most, even with Keyshawn Davis almost inserting himself in the conversation with his breakthrough status. This fight, Shakur Tank, if Tank beats Roach, is everything I would want. It's a pound for pound fight. It's a everything fight. There would be unification in the lightweight division. It'd be the most difficult opponent for both fighters. It'd be everything.
If that fight's not in the United States, it's an absolute motherfucking. You got Newark.
I mean,
versus Baltimore.
You're right, but I would take that on the moon or on
I'll take
Tasmanian
it.
Island.
If it's a question of it doesn't happen or it does and it has to happen somewhere else, then fine. But anybody who is competently putting that together, or at a bare minimum, anybody who wants to make that fight as big as it can be, you have to put that fight.
I wonder if PBC, who have co-promoted when it got to like Mayweather-Pacquiao level, right, or Fury Wilder 2 level, I wonder if they would co-promote with Matchroom and Turkey.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
Final point on that fight. What would you think the line would be right now, or should be right now?
I think Tank would be a modest favorite.
Like minus 115.
A little more than that.
Long Island? Long Island, you want to weigh in on this?
2/5.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest boxing guy. I was going to say like minus 200 Tank, plus 150
that's where
Shakur.
I'm at. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. All right, let's quickly speed through what we did learn. Breakout performance for Virgil Ortiz Jr. against Israel Madrimov. Even with Madrimov now going public and saying I was, deadly sick and in the hospital, but I still pushed forward for the fight. Luke, I thought Israel Madrimov, who just gave Terrence Crawford like literal flip a coin at the end hell in terms of the style, I thought he was going to expose certain parts of Ortiz and make Ortiz have to brawl him. Luke, Ortiz was patient. Great trainer, Robert Garcia, we know this, but patient from the outside, picked his spots, waited out Madrimov's stamina and movement, and then just outboxed him and cornered him. And dude, like,
he brutalized him late.
I'm not sure he's not the best 154-pounder, which is this what I'm really trying to say? Canelo Crawford's probably going to happen in September because it's so big, and it was a big part of Canelo going to sign the 4-fight deal with Saudi Arabia. But like the boxing fan in me is almost saying, let's hit pause on Canelo Crawford and let's do Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Bud Crawford for supremacy at 54. That's the fight I would want to see. And I did not expect to say that coming in because even though I deemed Virgil Ortiz an exciting fighter, an unbeaten guy, close fight with Boachuk, but I love the heart he showed, I didn't know he was of this exact skill level because, to be fair, this was probably his toughest fight ever on paper, even though he was a slight betting favorite. And even though Bernard Hopkins, his promoter, called him Victor on the broadcast twice, meet him in the men's room. But like, is that crazy to say? I think that version of Virgil Ortiz can compete with Bud at 54, not win, but compete. Not maybe win, but like
I absolutely think he can compete with Bud at 54. I mean, this was interesting. Like, you actually look at the numbers. Ortiz landed better on Madrimov than Bud did, but the counter to that is that Bud took much less damage than Ortiz. But to me, that's really not even the story.
It's Madrimov moved more against Bud. He had, you know what I mean? He looked healthier.
It's a different fight.
Yeah.
It's a different fight. Different guys, different strategies. Ortiz had a very I'm not going to say basic approach, but a kind of a simple concept, which is you got to limit the movement. And dude, talking about that fight, early to middle way through that fight, I'm like, dude, Madrimov is running away with this.
I'm like, Ortiz can't touch him.
Can't fucking touch him. And you
was
could
not
see
landing a lot though. If you notice,
that's right.
it was like little jabs.
Yeah,
here,
little jabs,
you know.
jabs, and then going. Where, by the way, and that also tells you the difference between him and Bivol. Bivol had a similar-ish kind of assignment, but was still able to put a little bit more behind it at times. At least enough to deter Beterbiev, and Ortiz could not be deterred. But dude, the fact that Ortiz overcame that and did such phenomenal work to the body shots, the body work, really taking his legs away, making him stationary. And dude, once Madrimov was more or less stationary, Ortiz whooped him. It was not close at all. And I actually, it's funny, you can I've seen it circulated on Twitter, but this was something that I did a live stream watching the fight with my friend Othello, and we called it out during the live stream. There's a point there where Ortiz cross reaches for to peel the guard, but lets it go, and you see Madrimov raise his hand to get it back up. So then Ortiz comes right underneath the elbow and crushes him.
Dude, he got forced into a new division at 54. We didn't even know if he'd be a puncher in this division. His body work is insane.
It's not just the body work was insane. The pace was insane. The patience was insane. And then again, dude, how many times did you see him just go, like ripping shots to the body? And Madrimov was just kind of just hunching. And then the uppercut started firing. Dude, this was one of I'm not even kidding. This was one of my favorite performances from Virgil Ortiz. Maybe not number one, but top 3, something like that. Like, this was fucking awesome. This was proof of concept. Like, everyone kind of thinks he's going to outdog the next guy. And I think if he has to outdog the next guy, he can do that. This was much more scientific.
Yes.
And this was one he built. This was a 12-round game plan. This was one where he was like, we have to build a game plan for every part of a 12-round frame. And he, obviously, he did that shit, man. He looked fucking awesome in this fight. I really love this performance.
Even though we bag on PFL, or I do with these, we both do with these tournament ideas, and now we still have a tournament, but it makes almost less sense. I wish 154 pounds we could have an all-promotion global tournament. Imagine Bud, Virgil Ortiz, Boachuk in there. Bring back Jermel Charlo, Tim Tszyu, Sebastian Fundora, Erickson Lubin. Like, you really look at the talent around the world at 154. Like, this division's fun right now.
Let's get these fights made, please.
Please. Well, we got to do Canelo Crawford. Look, that is one of those that brings the casuals, and I can't hate on it. It's an incredible storyline.
The toughest opponent Canelo's had in a while.
Yeah, indeed. Very quickly, Luke, I did have to mention Ajit Kabayel, the German heavyweight, is like on freaking fire. Now, 3 straight body shot knockouts. He had knocked out unbeaten Frank Sanchez, and now he went in there against Big Bang Zhang, who did not have his best night at 41, but Zhang knocks down Kabayel in the 5th round. Kabayel gets up off the canvas and stops him the next round. He showed as active body punching as like any heavyweight on this level we've ever seen. I question if he was for real coming in. This was a big statement toward him being for real. Now he's got the interim WBC title. Can this guy crash the top end of this heavyweight division party, or does he get hit too much? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's some things to like and not like, but he's undefeated. He's aggressive. He wants the smoke. I just don't know if he belongs against the true elite.
Honestly, there appears to me nothing special about him, ... except he's an awesome body puncher.
Yeah.
3 body shot KOs in a row. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Like, that's not an accident, and a lot of heavyweights are not very good going to the body. Ajit Kabayel is, but to your point, BC, he also gets hit. Dude, he's just a fun... Let's just say this out loud, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it really is true. The heavyweight division in boxing is so much better than the heavyweight division in MMA.
Well, it's not even a comparison or conversation.
Well, okay, but that was a much tougher conversation to have some time ago.
Oh, yes.
Now it's a fucking blowout where you get guys like Ajit Kabayel, who is really good at one thing that is actually very important for winning, but has tons of other flaws, but that all means together he's going to overachieve at times, and he's going to have exciting underachievement in other times, and we're going to win either way as fans.
Yes.
Like, and you don't even have to worry about, is he going to be the best in the weight class? Probably not, but who gives a shit? Because there's a bunch of other guys in front of him. There are so many interesting additions to the boxing heavyweight division right now. Some of them imperfect. Ajit Kabayel is totally imperfect, but he's totally welcome as far as I'm concerned.
That's why this is the 3rd greatest heavyweight era of all time, and people get mad when I say that. Not because I think that all of these names are better than, the 70s or the 90s or compared to any other, but They're fun, they're charismatic, they're marketable, and most of them are vulnerable as shit.
Super
Usyk
vulnerable.
seems like, almost unbeatable. Fury was largely unbeatable. Everybody else is vulnerable AF. And I think he fits into that object, and he's fun. Let's keep it going. By the way, I hate to say this to Joseph Parker. I said it earlier. I want Usyk Dubois next, even though it went the way it went with the illness and the pullout and all that. Sorry, Joseph Parker, but how about Joseph Parker, Ajit Kabayel? How about that fight?
Joseph Parker, Ajit Kabayel. Sure.
I know that's not fair to Joseph Parker, but also if Dubois really got sick, it wouldn't be. Should he have to go through Parker? I don't know. You have a chance at undisputed. You take it. That's my theory on that. But
yes, I mean, again, there's tons of fun fights you can make.
yes,
There's not one that I have to see with Ajit Kabayel.
In 5 seconds, Callum Smith against Joshua Buatsi. Dude, that was almost the fight of the night. It was a wonderful fight.
I completely slept on it. It was Buatsi strong early, and then Callum Smith absolutely
a lot of heart, dude.
Tons of heart, and then came back and put it on him. A surprisingly very good fight on this
I
card.
want to see Callum Smith against Benavidez or Morel.
But Madrimov and Ortiz was the best one. Oh, sorry, the funnest one, I think.
I would say so.
Pure fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Buatsi, Callum was a better action fight, but I like the adjustments on the Ortiz fight a lot more and the different styles and contrasts and all of that. Let's go quickly to topic number 3. It's to close out this Saudi Arabia supercard before we get into all things eye pokes and UFC Seattle and a banging all-action crowd that they had for that one. And that's Turki Alalshikh and what we saw picked up on ringside cameras during the middleweight title bout, the only one of the 7 fights we haven't talked about, and that was Carlos Adames defending his WBC middleweight title against unbeaten power puncher Hamza Shiraz, and it ultimately being a dispute. Would you say controversial or just disputed draw in the end, this fight? Brent Brookhouse of CBS Sports, my colleague, did have it a draw. I had it about 7-5, 8-4 Adames in my head.
I thought Adames probably deserved to be the narrow victor, but I got to be honest, I didn't think he probably deserved to win. I wouldn't go to the mat to say it had to be a draw,
right?
But I'd be lying if I said being a draw was somehow offensive to me. It was not.
He lightly exposed Shiraz.
Yes.
He did, right?
Yes.
I don't think Shiraz threw enough punches to have won that, but it was an interesting fight. But before the 11th round, at the end of the 10th round, ringside cameras picked up Turki Alalshikh running to the corner of Shiraz. Now, Shiraz is officially a Riyadh Citizen ambassador, and we know Turki has favorite fighters that are kind of like in the inner circle, like Tyson Fury, like a few up. Mark Chamberlain was his guy for a while. And Turki appears to be screaming toward the corner to tell Hamza that he's down 2 points. What we don't know is if he got that from the 4th AI judge that Ring Magazine is experimenting with, which did have Shiraz down 2 points heading into the championship rounds, or Chris Mannix's unofficial card on DAZN had the same score. But the videos kind of were alarming in their own way, and I want to get Luke's take. People have seen my take on Twitter. Let's first check out the video here of what Turki did. And then Long Island Luke, if we just see the alternate angle, you can. Now, to some, it's much ado about nothing. But here's the situation. We don't actually know what the real scorecards were at that time. Normally, major boxing fights, they tweet a picture of the scorecards ringside. The PR guy of the lead promoter will do that. They did that on the Ring Magazine account for the main event. They did not do it on this one. So a lot of people are like, well, what's the issue? Well, a few issues. Number one being that no one outside of the corner is technically by commission allowed to be running up there and screaming in like that. Mm-hmm. It has happened before. People have talked about the Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios fight. Do you remember that pay-per-view?
The one in Texas?
Yeah, where Floyd was Tank's promoter, right?
Oh, yes.
And that was Floyd. Floyd was his individual promoter, which is why I have no issue with Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn, which they've done many times, being a cheerleader, running up and down, jumping into the corner sometimes to encourage. I think the setup that we have now with Turki Alalshikh in Saudi Arabia, where they are paying the fighters, making the fights, controlling the event, having financial relationships with the sanctioning bodies, like it's a different model. If anything, Turki's more Dana White right now. He's more, I guess, Al Heyman to some degree, but more Dana White, right? Mm-hmm. To me, this is a bad look, whether it's just oh, Shiraz is one of Turkey's favorite fighters, and he saw the AI scorecard and he just wanted to encourage him. Is that the end of the world? Well, I want to ask you, if we just have a UFC main event, Cejudo versus Song Yadong, and Dana White's running in the corner of Cejudo going, hey, tell him, oh, Captain, why is Captain not in his corner? Tell him he's down 2 points. I don't know why he wasn't, by the way, but tell him he's down 2 points. Like, I would be like, okay, that's a little bit too far. That's the promoter. It's different in boxing because boxing has individual promoters. Every fighter on that card had their own promoter.
Yep.
So Turkey's more of he's the judge, the jury. I mean, he's the law.
The buck stops with him.
So either that's just him being too much of a public superfan, or at worst, it's the guessing of impropriety. Did he go overlook the judges' scores to get this? There is video of him once the 12th round ended that he got up and sprinted around the ring. I don't know what he did from that. Did he check the judges' scores? I have no idea. I think just the fact that it sniffs that is awful. Luke, how do you chime in on this? Is this much ado about anything, or is this potentially kind of a gross look when you consider how these fights are made? Right?
I mean, I wouldn't call it the biggest scandal I've ever seen, but it's clearly inappropriate and unprofessional and should not happen. There's not open scoring for the house fighter or the preferred fighter of the promoter. It doesn't work that way. If there's going to be open scoring, well, then there's open scoring for everyone. That's not what this was. This was Turkey for whatever reason. Maybe he likes the guy more or whatever. You mentioned to me that Shiraz is a Riyadh season fighter, correct?
I've read that he's an ambassador, yes.
Yes, I mean, so he has some kind of an official relationship with the larger brand, and then they're giving him the scores. Now, of course, they're not changing the outcome per se, but they're giving him the scores, which kind of influence the outcome. It could certainly influence the bout, and they didn't give that to Carlos Adames. This is favoritism. Again, maybe Turkey didn't see it that way. We should also be very clear about this. Turkey, on the one hand, seems like he very much has an idea about wanting to control the sport. And there are times, though, where he just acts like a complete goofball. And It can be a little hard to disentangle the two. And it could also be the case that no one's ever really explained to him, you can't actually do this. But this is the problem with one guy basically footing the bill for essentially everything. He feels, it seems like, I'm going to make I'm going to guess here, seems to me that he feels a degree of entitlement to interfere in these ways. And it probably doesn't even occur to him that it's necessarily all that bad if he's doing it nakedly on camera.
It's the same thing to me.
The rules have to be applied equally, period. This shit is too difficult. Carlos Adames, maybe he deserved a draw. Maybe he did. But he deserves an opportunity to be treated before the rules just the same as Shiraz. That didn't happen.
To me, it's the same thing as when Turkey was interviewed by Mike Hoppinger on ESPN and admitted to, hey, I've been effing up the news cycle in the last 48 hours by giving everybody false info from my Ring magazine account to shift the Canelo negotiations in my favor. The fact that he so brazenly shared that shows that he comes from a different business. He doesn't know the quote unquote rules or the etiquette. But here's the deal. Do I think at the end of the day that he was rigging that fight for Shiraz? No, I don't officially think that. Do I think that he ran over and saw the judges' cards? No, I bet you he was looking at a monitor that had Mannix's scorecard, or he was looking at the fourth judge thing. Totally fine. Do I think that there's all this pressure and manipulation behind the scenes on the judges and the referees? No, I'm not saying that. But I think moments like this tell anybody who doesn't know that nuance that it's very possible, if not it's happening right in front of you. So you would want to avoid any sniff of that, in my opinion. And I know that he has favorite fighters.
The mere appearance of impropriety is enough to bring the whole thing down.
Because you're controlling every element of that event and card. So you don't want to put that out. It's so like, I know he's a Tyson Fury guy. Sometimes he's in the interviews with Tyson, whatever. But like, I don't think he's actually manipulating fights. He's gone in before and said, last fight, first Beterbiev Bivol fight. At the end, he said, I thought Bivol won. It was like, okay, great. That was a great answer.
I don't think he's manipulating results either.
No, but you don't want to put that out there.
That's
what I'm trying to say.
Also, did you hear the bone crusher in the background? I just have to say, I got a hot 4 fever. Call that bitch Benita. Knock the apple off any bum with a hollow heat seek. I just had to put that out there. Also, get the alert ready. I got breaking news. Can we hear it? I got breaking news for you. This is from a guy who I trust. He reports breaking news a lot, from Leo Guimarães. Juliana Pena is going to fight Kayla Harrison for the title. This will be 7th of, I believe, June, UFC 316.
Ooh, where is that located?
That will be in Newark, New Jersey.
Yes, they just announced that. No, I thought it was June 7th.
Yeah, so it's June. I don't know how you say June in Portuguese. I'm reading the Portuguese
gotcha.
thing here. Yes, June 7th. Kayla Harrison. I don't know if it's the main event, but Kayla Harrison, Juliana Pena from Leo Guimarães, who is usually very, very good with this stuff.
All right, there you go. Let's shift to MMA now for topic number 4.
We have to pay some bills.
That's a
do we
great
not?
point, Luke. I'm totally off the ball on this. All right. Do you want to kick us off here, sir?
Well, listen, I'm wearing it today, BC. I don't know if you are, but you might be asking, what am I wearing? And the answer is 2 words for you: True Classics.
Yes.
You can't go wrong with True Classics, right? As a general rule, not just a True Classic brand. So,
oh, you mean True Classics in general? Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I mean like a beautiful old car or vintage kind of
or
thing,
a vintage record player.
Yeah, exactly. But the reality is, I'm wearing True Classic clothes today. I wear them, I'm not kidding, most days of the week at this point. Obviously, they sent us a gift package a long time ago, BC, and it just changed the way I do my wardrobe. Why? Because I can wear it in the winter, I can wear it in the summer, but more than that, comfortable, well-made. Launders, your size doesn't shrink. And I can pair it with, hey, do I want to go to the gym? I can wear it for that. Do I want to pair something classic and then go and have a little bit of a nicer jacket, a little bit of a nicer look, and go out, do something fun in the town? I can do all of that. True Classic meets all of my needs, from fitness to function to form, you name it. Count me in as a big fan.
Okay, what about us that are very critical of ourselves in the mirror? Do you know what I love most about True Classic? That it accentuates the positives, all right? I look cut and ripped in the T-shirts. My wife notices. She doesn't usually like what I wear. When I show up in True Classic with those strong colors, with that fit, it does make a difference. We're talking about premium clothes, by the way, at an affordable price. That also makes a difference. Shirts designed to fit your best features, as I mentioned, and it has a lot of those winter must-haves, Luke, you know what I'm saying? The long sleeve Hanleys, all those things we're talking about, the button-ups, the joggers, comfy clothes, but also clothes you can look good on the night out. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I mean. Again, and it all fits well, and if it doesn't fit well, by the way, they have a 100% perfect fit guarantee on all the returns. By the way, all 100% of orders have free shipping. So this is what I mean. In addition to getting a quality piece of clothing, you can interface with the company in a very easy way. Maybe you get the size that wasn't exactly what you expected. Don't worry. They're going to take good care of you. And I can tell you, they've taken very good care of BC. And my wife, by the way, I got to say, my wife, a True Classic approved, I don't know what you want to call her, spouse in this particular case.
Yes.
She loves it when I wear True Classic stuff.
Let me let our viewers get involved in this, okay? Level up your date night or your everyday style with clothes that actually fit right. Just go to my exclusive link here, our exclusive link, at trueclassic.com/combat with a K to save. That's trueclassic.com/combat with a K. Shop now and elevate your wardrobe today. Yes. Oh, sorry. The code combat. We know that.
There we go.
There we go. All
Very
right,
good.
There we go.
I love it. And again, wearing it today.
Let's get back into the show and let's get back into topic number 4 and a shift to mixed martial arts. UFC Seattle. Look, it was a really good card on paper and then took a ton of hits in terms of the matchmaking, and there was last-minute scrambling. But it played out with some all-action bonanza. I believe they were 7 for 7 in finishes to kick it off. The crowd was absolutely on fire. But, Luke, the main event definitely stole the headlines when Henry Cejudo was poked in the eye unintentionally by Song Yadong in their bantamweight fight that had a lot of, top 10 implications here. It was the second foul for Song. No points taken away, though, from Jason Herzog. Some mild, consistent warning, though. So here's my question. From Cejudo milking every second of the 5 minutes allotted to him, to referee Jason Herzog not taking the point away, and then forcing the start of the 4th round so it could go to the scorecards and become a technical decision and not a no contest, by the way. I want to know from you, did Herzog handle the situation properly? And do you also believe that Cejudo acted shamelessly in looking for a way out, and maybe that fueled Herzog's decision? A lot to get into here. How do you think it was handled in the end?
I think that about the shamelessness of it all. Let me do some polling here. Long Island Luke, to what extent do you believe Cejudo actually had difficulty seeing?
Like 30%.
Tell me why you are largely, but not totally, skeptical.
Because I think as soon as the fight restarted again, he started getting pieced up and then was looking for a way out of the fight. So then in between rounds, he starts going, I can't see. Like you could see 2 minutes ago when you decided to resume
I do
the
agree with
fight,
that side of it.
I don't know why. Why did you think he said he could see? Because he didn't say he couldn't see?
Yeah, he took the 5 minutes and then he continued fighting. If you can't see, say you can't see.
He's
then
basically
they'll call it
saying
no
he only
contest.
came to that decision after he realized that he was so compromised that Song was lighting him up. But Cejudo kind of did say that in the mic afterwards. Like you know what I'm saying?
What do you mean?
Saying that it really wasn't until he tried to fight with post eye scratch that he was getting hit up. He was getting lit up, and he started to realize like this isn't fair. I can't see guys. So like I agree with what he's saying, but I
think people expect way too much of fighters in certain respects. Way too much. He probably did try to tell himself, I can see through it. It's fine. It's whatever. And then
he's
reality,
a warrior. He's
right,
a warrior.
We're talking about an Olympic fucking gold medalist here. Let's he does racist shit at press or weigh-ins, and he says a bunch of dumb shit. But this is a very decorated combat sports athlete who I think deserves some benefit of the doubt here. I personally don't find him. I mean, dude, every time we get to one of these situations where a foul ends up changing or ending about, half of the discussion is about how the toughest people I've ever known in my life are actually just malingering on camera.
Yeah.
It does happen. It mathematically has to happen. I think going to that as an explanation to me doesn't really help the conversation much. That's the first thing I want to say.
Okay.
Second of all, in terms of how Henry handled it, there is I think an argument that he didn't handle it all that great. I want to come back to it. But the first thing I want to say is, can we time out? Time out on this.
Whoa, what's going on right now? You about to tell a secret?
When the UFC launched their new gloves, we didn't get enough data to really know if this was true or not, but they did make claims, and I went back and I looked. They did make claims that these should, at least in theory, reduce overall eye injuries, or I don't know if they put pokes on there, but it was supposed to limit any kind of issues that the old gloves had.
So it wasn't supposed to limit knockouts. That was just a byproduct.
I don't think they put that on the
yeah.
Okay. And obviously there was some preliminary data that the new gloves were minimizing KOs, but as most people who were watching that, who compiled the statistics, said, it's still a little too early to tell. Doesn't matter. UFC pulled the plug and they went back to the old gloves. Now, again, I don't even know if the new gloves were going to fix or meaningfully reduce eye pokes, BC, but they at least put that as something of a selling point when they gave it to us. If we're going to retreat to the old gloves, that means no matter what, you're going to retreat to the old problems. And given that we've had more elegant solutions to this problem, either to the Power Lock Everlast glove or the Trevor Whitman glove or the Pride glove, the UFC bears some responsibility here for going to what is basically old technology that doesn't do anything to meaningfully curb the problem. That's actually the first thing I should say here. Everyone wants to make this about Henry and Herzog, and I'm like, the gloves play a role. The UFC chose to go to gloves that they know do nothing to stop eye pokes.
But not having a culture where you enforce points
I'll get to that.
in a timeline that makes more sense, that because it's affecting fights, that's bigger than the change.
Fine. But I think having a conversation about the problem has to start with, we actually have some reason to believe there are already better technological solutions to this problem, and they don't want to go to them. I don't understand why that is. That's problem number one. Problem number two with Herzog, first of all, I like Jason Herzog a lot as a referee. I think way more often than not, he gets it right. I truly believe that. I know he trains. I know he cares. I've spoken to him a few times privately. He's a locked-on kind of guy, but it's a difficult job. They're not always going to get it right. I don't think he got it right necessarily here. Going from the third to the fourth round, I don't have an issue with that. That's just the nature of the way the rules were being implemented at the time. Not taking a point from Song Yadong, to me, is just indefensible. There was the ball kick in the second round, which they partly stopped. Then there was a bad one that they stopped for in the third round. Then he follows that up with an eye poke that goes fucking knuckle deep.
And the warnings were not strong.
Not at all. Into his fucking brain. Understand what happened. Henry Cejudo was fouled and then ultimately fouled his way into, like in terms of receiving the foul, fouled his way into losing. Guys, if your system is set up where the person who gets fouled ends up losing the fucking contest, something is off about your rules. And I know there are rules where if the bout goes long enough, then you judge and blah, blah, blah. I get all of that.
I don't think I even said Song Yadong won a technical decision.
He won a technical decision.
After 3 rounds of judging.
But this is the point. If he had been deducting, if Herzog had deducted a point, this would have been a majority draw.
Yes.
So it didn't even matter if it would have gone to the fourth round. He wouldn't have had the L. How is it that Henry Cejudo is supposed to be the guy that gets kicked in the balls, poked in the eye, and then he's the one that has to lose?
Well,
what the fuck are we doing with that?
I was going to say that I think 2 things can be right. I think 3 things can be right. One, I don't actually think Cejudo deserved to lose this fight for that same point you said, and we have seen fights in recent years that met this sort of same thing, where there was like a fighter could use the question of can you continue or not strategically. So when I say two things are right, I think Cejudo, it's not his fault that he got viciously fouled, on that third one after no strong warnings or taking away of points. But I also think he attempted to milk the system, which is a veteran move at a level that was like egregious, like extreme. So first I want to show what Cejudo posted. In this, look, he got legitimately injured. And this is what Cejudo posted in response. First, the picture of it. And then do you have also the description?
We just got the picture.
That looks like me after 5 gummies.
So he mentioned 3 different
corneal abrasion and some other ones as well.
So 3 different damaging things he was because he went to the hospital to check it out. But then number 2 is him sitting down and milking it, and he got booed, and I think rightfully so. It gave the impression that
Why is his vision supposed to just materialize on a timeline?
No,
that
you
is
get 5
pleasant
minutes
to the
for
fans?
a reason, but you can't act like he wasn't also milking it, even though he got effed up and it wasn't his fault. He was also milking it.
When you say milking it, what does that mean? That to me,
strategically trying to figure out how do I use every possible second.
Why shouldn't he do that?
You get 5 minutes. It's not illegal.
What is wrong? What is wrong with him doing that? Like, I want everyone to take a moment to think about all of the decisions that as prize fighters, MMA fighters don't get to make. All the decisions that get outsourced to other actors. And we go, by the way, how many times we had a Pitbull Cruz issue last time?
Sure.
Floyd Mayweather before. I don't like these gloves. I'm not going to fucking wear them because Floyd was the one putting his health on the line. He'll be damned if someone's going to put gloves on his hands that he doesn't approve. And we're back to that here. And that's just one. I could pick many. Him taking the 5 minutes to make a more informed decision, while it was not pleasing to watch in real time, is one of the few things he can do to take control of a bad situation. Fuck everyone who thinks he was out there fucking hamming it up and doing the robot and fucking knuckle tricks.
He was like Garbrandt in the Cruz fight,
pulling fucking nickels from behind his little kid's ear.
Okay, but when the referee goes,
"Are
you ready?" The time was up. The 5 minutes were up, and he still was kind of walking the other way. Like, I get that he's got a freaking eye injury and he's trying to make a decision.
Have you ever been poked in the eye real bad?
Yes, and
it didn't come.
I've
been poked in there real bad. My vision did not come back after 5 minutes.
I know part of my anger should go more in the direction of Herzog, the commission rules, everything about that. It seemed like Henry got effed. But Long Island Luke, I want to get your opinion. We can't act like Cejudo wasn't trying to milk every second and opportunity here, almost shamelessly.
I agree, and I was rooting for Henry Cejudo. In fact, that's the only bet that didn't get me a perfect week. So I wanted him to win, dude, but I still felt like he was milking it.
Okay, you're saying he's milking it. Tell me why he shouldn't.
That's a
There's
fair
no
question.
reason why he shouldn't.
Then why are we talking about it?
Because most fighters, maybe it's the pressure from the crowd booing and stuff. Most fighters never take even close to the 5 minutes. I'm not saying they shouldn't.
Fighters make terrible decisions with their lives every day. How is that a basis of comparison?
Okay, Cejudo was diagnosed with diplopia, soft tissue damage, and a corneal abrasion. So it's not nothing here, okay? This is legit. I get what you're saying. This is not wrong.
I'm not telling you he didn't milk it. What I'm asking someone to tell me is, what is the problem with that?
Especially in the face of the way the rules are almost against the person who got fouled. Look, bottom line, the biggest culprit.
There's one more culprit here.
The biggest culprit is the system. I want to say Jason Herzog, but it's the commission system not putting more of an emphasis because they don't want the referees to be part of the scoring in the end. That's why I feel like there's such
huge part.
a culture of let's warn. It's never aggressive enough. It's never consistent enough, and they keep giving these guys extra chances. This changes the fight. You only get 3 rounds. I know this was a 5-round fight, but like these moments change the fights. So I really wish that it was established in the system that I don't care if it's an accident. You viciously foul somebody. Maybe you get 1 warning. You get 1 warning of 1 foul. Now, like there's levels of what the second foul can be. The second foul can be an accidental abrasion on the crotch. There's a difference between that and a full through illegal punch or knee or what we saw here with an eye poke. Shouldn't a referee have an ability to discretion where in this case I'm going to jump through the warning? No, you get a point taken away. You may have not have done it intentional, but you sticking your finger into the brain is going to change this fight and take away from your opponent. So the point is the penalty, whether it's your fault or not. Establishing that will obviously teach a new culture. They had to do it in the NFL to protect the quarterbacks.
Yep.
You had to learn how a new way to tackle. It is what it is. Like
I couldn't agree more. Jim Miller, by the way, talking on this morning on Twitter, saying he's been poked in the eye 2 different times in fights, and both times it resulted in not like total loss of vision, but permanent loss that he was never able to get back. Dude, this is no fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
This is when people like, he milked it, or, how bad was it? Guys, he got poked in the fucking eye in the middle of a cage fight. Have a little bit of sympathy for this guy. But the one thing I will say,
it should have been a no contest. I get why it wasn't, but I think it should have been.
Okay, but this is the one area of blame that I think Cejudo has to accept, and not just him, all fighters. Guys, if you've ever talked to a prize fighter, they know like how to do their game in MMA like the back of their hand, right? Especially the elite ones. But even the elite ones don't know the rules of MMA. They don't know the commission's rules. To me, if you knew the commission's rules and you still couldn't see that great, and you knew that it was a 5-round bout, if it goes to the next round, they're just going to go to the fucking scorecards. Because remember, Cejudo asked Herzog for a point deduction on Song, and it is his right. But
actually, it was hilarious. He was like, Herzog was like, "Can you continue?" And he's like, "You should have took the fucking point away."
Yeah. He's right, and referee Herzog has a right to it's his discretion. But if they're not going to do that, and you know the rules, say you can't fucking see, because it turns out he actually couldn't fucking see. That's actually telling the truth. But this is what I mean. MMA fighters are robbed of so many decisions from the beginning of camp to after the fight that other combat athletes get to make. That would be one he would get to make, and he punted it away. And so when that happens, well, now the commission's going to make a decision for you. Fighters of the world, don't do that. Don't do that. Take control of the decisions that there are actually empowering you to make.
It's the same thing of the people criticizing the Haney's for letting Ryan Garcia miss weight, and then they just, they kept going with the fight.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, in that situation, you could have been like, no, this guy's out of control. He's disgracing me. We're not doing the fight.
That's right.
They could have done that.
They had a choice, and then they let the commission run with it.
Yes. I don't want to miss the point of this fight. So even though let me do it this way. So Cejudo wants a rematch, and he's still tweeting about it. Song Yadong in the post-fight interview said, "I'll give him a second chance." Let's hear Dana on the topic.
Obviously, Henry and Song seem like they want to have the rematch. Is that kind of what you're thinking, that they should run that one back? Or
Not at all.
Not at all? Okay.
Not even a little bit.
Why is that?
I just don't want to see it again.
Okay.
Do you?
No, I thought it was a good fight leading up.
You want to see it again? We should probably do it in a couple months.
It depends on the eye, right?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about the actual fight. We did get 2.5 rounds of material. I know they did finish the third, but it was a different fight once Henry was compromised, to be fair. Look, Luke, I want to give Cejudo credit at 38 for really trying to improve his game, trying to add, there was a lot more offensive variety in this, a lot. There was a lot of he looked like a young guy for a while. There was a commitment to moving and really trying to uniquely create offense that I don't think is sustainable at 38. And I think he's going to, in his game, he showed a great chin in there. And if he wants to, he could be a part of some all-action fights between big names. But I think we learned through 3 rounds there that the super elite version of him, he can capture it for little pockets, little moments, but I don't think you can do that over a 5-round fight against these horses. I know the fights with Merab and Aljo particularly were close and competitive, but I think we learned in those coming off the long layoff that he just was a gear too short. He needed another gear. He expended all the energy he could to stay relevant, to try to round out his game. Like I said, I saw moves in there I'd never seen from Cejudo before. It's not going to be enough. I think we learned that through 3 rounds here against these guys. Because I think Song is of the lower end of the elites, and Song was putting it on him, dude.
I thought it was reasonably competitive. I thought
the guts of Henry and the mind kept him in there.
Yes,
but he has to take a lot of punishment to be at this level.
That's true. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought Song was better. I thought Song was winning that contest. But I thought, Henry was making it competitive overall and certainly in some spurts. And so, Song winning in some sense, is not an affront to what transpired in the cage per se. But I'm a little bit with Dana. I don't have a strong need to do this. I just feel bad for Henry. He hasn't won a fight in 5 years. He's 0-3 since whatever you want to call that retirement sabbatical that he was on. And, I've said this before, there's an argument to be made that when he retired, there were a bunch of bantamweights in front of him that probably one of them would have beaten him at least, like that. It wasn't like he was going to go on some forever title reign. But the other reality is he walked away at the peak of his powers, and we are far past that now.
And the division right when he left, suddenly was like top to bottom, the deepest and most incredible in the sport.
I mean, if it's one thing to compete at 32, 33 at bantamweight, try doing it 37, 38.
Yeah.
It's fucking tough.
And like he was game on Saturday, and he like, I mean,
he didn't look like shit by any
were you
stretch of
not
the
impressed with
imagination.
parts of his game? I mean, it was there, you know?
There was times where he would get hit and then fire back, and like he
But
showed some life. Like
once
for sure.
we realized he couldn't take a Song down and keep him down, then it became a different fight. Then he needed all of the creativity of the offense to try to hang with Song, but through executing that at his age, he's going to get lit up.
I want to say this too. I thought Song Yadong looked good, and again, I thought he was winning. Fine.
It was a fun fight too.
It was a good fight. It was a little bit pick each other off at a kickboxing range, but I didn't think Song looked amazing.
That's a good conversation to have.
I didn't think it looked. Long Island Luke, how did Song look to you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you guys said it earlier. He's like that lower end of the elite guys.
Yeah.
Like,
He
I
hasn't
don't think he's
put
ever
it
going to
together yet. Will he ever put it together is the real question.
I mean, he's still got time. Like, he's still very young, so like I don't want to count him out.
I think he has like 14 UFC fights.
I keep waiting for there to be like this one performance where I'm like, okay, fuck, he's arrived.
Yes.
And it hasn't happened yet.
And this fight was, I think, if there was no eye poke, this fight could have been that. He may not have gotten a stoppage here. It depends how much more Cejudo was going to take.
Yeah, hard to say.
He had.
Hard to say.
But even if you beat Cejudo, who gave like I said, we gave a very good effort, that would have been the win. And now it's the eye poke fight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's unfortunate in that regard. Right. One more thing with Dana, they did ask him about the whole point situation.
Do you believe a point should have been taken?
If you thought it was intentional. If you thought he intentionally poked him in the eye. Do you believe it was intentional? Yes? Why would he poke him in the eye? He was doing pretty well. If he was getting his ass whooped and poked him in the eye, you could probably make the argument. But you're not sure it wasn't intentional.
No, it didn't.
What's your last name? Cejudo?
Okay,
Jimmy Cejudo over here.
He's got some good one-liners in this press
That was a good joke. No, but dude, he's so fucking wrong. Like,
I agree.
And I know that everyone's like, oh, you guys are always hating on him. I'm not even hating on him because I think a lot of people actually think this. Guys, a foul does not need to be intentional to be a huge fucking problem. BC, how many times have there been a pass interference call in the NFL, roughing the passer, you name it, where you thought, he wasn't obviously intending to fuck with this person in this way, especially on these quarterback hits, but they still throw the flag anyway.
Yes.
What the fuck are we talking about? There is an entire in the rule book, I'm not even making this up, in the rules about intentional fouls versus non-intentional fouls. It's the most worthless fucking distinction imaginable. Because people, what are they walking around like fucking Three Stooges?
They have
bits?
nothing in the rules to prevent somebody from doing this, which is what Song did anytime Cejudo's about to throw. It's your fault, okay? Like,
it can be an accident and still be a disaster for the other guy and still make it unfair for the other guy. And it can be negligent to a degree, not intentional, but negligent. That's what this was. And he had already fouled him previously. This was the second cessation in action. And they never, ever, ever, ever want to penalize. The intentionality is, I cannot overstate this. And please, one more time, double check me in the bylaws in any fucking state commission. It does not, under any circumstance, have to be intentional for it to be called. And in fact, there's an entire rule genre around non-intentional fouls.
When you die of a heart attack, at least do it on our show for ratings. Be a man about it, all right? You know what I mean? Like,
I have
leave it all on the playing field, please.
Only if you bury me in smoke. You understand? You got to put me in the thing and then stuff it full of.
I need your last point on intentionality after watching this clip. Was this intentionally racist by Henry Cejudo or accidental? When he came out with a giant fortune cookie.
I did see one zing being like, that was a life-size fortune cookie.
Yes. It says what? Song's luck is running low. Round 4 TKO.
He was right.
He was right. He was right. I mean, that's one of the most least racist things of me.
I keep saying this again. This is an industry where if you are mildly insult another person of power or even any kind of thing, where they get really bitter at you and their feelings get really hurt, and then they tell you to like lighten up on this. Again, there was a degree of levity to this. I don't think the world's going to end.
Didn't Turkey put a guy in jail for a tweet?
I just want to point out, just say you like the racism. Just say that. Just say you like doing the jokes like that. You like the racism.
Yeah.
It's not really about anything else, but okay. Neither here nor there.
There you go. Hey, let's go to topic number 5, and that's the rest of UFC Seattle, but particularly when I'm talking about this undercard, an electric crowd, which I think helped play a big role in producing a number of great finishes, a few all-action bangers. But Luke, let's talk about individual performances, and there were a lot of them. Outside of pointing out how much more fun it is for a fight night to be in front of an arena with depraved, crazy fans like they were in Seattle compared to the damn Apex. Outside of that, right? From Fluffy Hernandez to Lord Silva to Austin Vanderford in his UFC debut to insert whoever you want. Who was the biggest winner on the UFC Seattle undercard?
Man, that's a tough one. I struggle with this.
Because you want to say Fluffy, but you don't want to say Fluffy.
Because I want to say Fluffy, but I don't know if I can. And I don't know if I'm being too harsh. So, okay, I'm going to say Fluffy. The reason I'm going to say Fluffy is because this was a quality opponent. This was a guy who had faced him before, by the way. So this was a rematch, and that can definitely make for its own challenges.
Hernandez won the first fight in LFA, and it was a barn burner title fight that went just like this one.
And there were many things he showed in this fight that lead you to believe he's got some more climbing in the rankings to do. Also was, co-main event slot and whatnot. So for that reason...
And 7 consecutive wins.
Yeah. I mean, the facts speak for themselves as it relates to Anthony Hernandez. However, the tape for me was a little... Now, what you told me was that he said afterwards he was injured.
We have the video.
Well, because I haven't seen it, so I want to react to that. Because to me, I'll say this. He got a great win. He did exactly what he needed to ultimately in the end, but there were a lot of problems with the tape on Fluffy in this particular fight.
It was a really sloppy fight, but I loved it. Like, there were points where I was like, I tweeted, this fight's like a thrill ride. It's out of control. And then people were like, yo, this fight sucks.
No, it didn't suck.
It was exciting, but let's hear from Fluffy.
Hard fought. You mentioned after the fight that you were on some antibiotics. Like, how serious were things leading into the fight?
Let's just say I got off amoxicillin Friday.
Okay.
So I felt like shit, and then I'm not gonna lie, I messed up my ribs 2 weeks ago. So my ribs were fucked before, and it was just like, thank God for the PI. They were here and they helped me every fucking day. We got it to be good enough for the fight, and went out there and made it happen. So, yeah.
And we can ask you now, obviously, because you won the fight, but I know it looked like a tough weight cut yesterday. Looked like that was the case?
Dude, the fucking pills, the amoxicillin was holding weight. I talked to the PI people, too, and they said the same thing, that when you're on antibiotics, it's very hard to cut weight. So while my body was trying to recover, I'm trying to fucking deplete it. You know what I mean? So
felt like a dog.
It was just a nightmare, but I'm pretty fucking tough between the ears and made it happen.
Okay, that changes a lot. That's a lot. I mean, that's a shitload. Okay.
I mean, Madrimov went through, these fighters
I'm on amoxicillin now.
Right. Like, these fighters are freaking...
So if that's the case, then I think we should give him a mulligan. Then the answer has to be Gene Silva.
Yeah, Gian, in fact.
Gian. I keep calling him Gene.
We can call him Lord.
We call him Lord. Bryce Mitchell doesn't like that. Whatever you want to call him, Lord Silva, Gene Silva, whatever.
Dude, 4 appearances, 4
The guy
finishes.
is a promotional highlight machine. He knows exactly how to stir controversy. I don't like the dapping up so much. That part gets me a little, he's a little too frequent. But from the personality to the fight itself to the way the fights are ending.
Doesn't he hit off the dap up though? Doesn't he like give you a high five and then punch?
Yeah, I mean,
right
he
away?
doesn't. It's not sneaky, but he doesn't wait. There's not a grace period. Let's put it that way. But in any case, he is so spectacular. He's such a fun adjustment. Fighting nerds in general are doing incredible things, and he's one of the foremost exciting guys in that whole movement. Got to be him.
Dude, he's exciting as AF. He took first round TKO of Milsic Bagdasaryan. 4 finishes, 4 fights in the UFC. But did this not feel like a coming out party? Like, he'd been exciting before, he'd been crazy before, but this took his sort of, like, I don't love all of his craziness, but it just shoots through your TV in like a Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show type of way where you're like, holy crap, I can't stop looking at this guy.
Fighters who are unhinged, and I don't mean unhinged like War Machine. I mean unhinged like they've got this sort of weird creative voice in their head making them do weird, unusual, but kind of cool things.
Yes.
He's got that.
Yes.
He's got that, and it changes it makes him have a weird personality, but a good one.
He's joyful, too.
He's joyful. He's vicious. Gene Silva, whatever, is fucking fantastic. But I'd be curious to know, Long Island Luke, who was your biggest winner on this card?
I was going to say Silva as well, but I want to give a shout out to Ricky Simone.
Oh, Ricky Simone had a sick KO.
Dude, that's a bad.
It's a KO of the year contender.
That's a take a year off your career KO. Like he got.
And by the way, Javid Basharat posting right before the show today, he was like, "No excuses. I felt great. Damn. Weight cut was great. I was ready. He just got me. Yep,
all right.
That's it."
I want to get back just to close on GN Silva because he did call out Bryce Mitchell afterwards. So listen to this.
After the fight, you called out Bryce Mitchell. I can probably guess why you might not like Bryce, but what is it about that fight that you'd like to take him on?
I think that Bryce Mitchell is somebody that would offer me an opportunity, a very good renewed contract if I beat him. Also, as a guy who fought Ilya and he took him to the brink. It was finished towards the end of the round. So he's a tough opponent that can be dangerous. And as far as everything else, I think there are things that you can tolerate, especially when you're a public persona and you say them out loud.
I think his interpretation of the Bryce Ilya fight is incorrect.
Yeah,
he didn't push him to the brink. Bryce got pushed to the brink of retirement. Like that was like a sustained beatdown.
Yeah, Bryce got beat up so bad he didn't know if he wanted to keep fighting after that.
Outside of the recent Bryce comments on Hitler and then him on the Jackson podcast, and outside of all that stuff, right? If GN Silva, Lord Silva, improves to 5-0 in the UFC by beating Bryce Mitchell, is he like a featherweight title contender, or is he just a top 10er?
Well, here's what I can say after Saturday. Gian Silva needs to be fighting ranked guys. He needs to be fighting ranked guys. Like you're asking, like what's jumping through the screen. The Milsic Bagdasarians, we're done with that. Like we don't. It's a complete waste of his time. it was a fun fight, but like now we can clearly tell he is so far past that. How far? We don't know. We shall see. But I did see that Bryce Mitchell said that he was supposed to have that grappling match.
Yes.
Against the Israeli guy. He's not going to do that now. He's got a big fight coming up. We didn't say which one, but.
Maybe GN Lord Silva.
Maybe there's only one Lord, BC. That's what Bryce was saying.
I agree with that, but that's another topic.
Yeah, but who knows? These guys get they get weird tattoos. Who knows?
I would have gone fishing with JC. I'll tell you that much. Okay, we didn't need the meth, the two of us. Let me say this one other thing. Austin Vanderford. He took the fight on less than a week's notice. Didn't have to go through the Dana White Contender Series this time. If it was convenient for the UFC because he's from nearby, that's fine. But he also got himself a dominant second-round finish over Nikolai Veretnikov, but we almost had a Paul Daly moment afterwards when Veretnikov, after losing on TKO due to strikes, he did get whooped. He almost got submitted in round 2. Like he got owned on the ground. He would push Vanderford. They would have a shovey match to get the double birds from Austin. Here's Austin talking about that.
Yeah, for him, I'm not really sure what he's complaining about. He wasn't ever going to get out of the position we were in, and he was just going to get hurt even worse. So he's lucky that the ref saved him, to be honest.
Well, the bonus for you, right? You get the finish, and you also got a really good shot of the double bird that's all over Twitter right now.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Of course, our emotions are running, and he starts talking shit, and he comes up and calls me a bitch, and it's like, who's cut up and who's getting their ass beat. So, that's just the way it's going to go.
Luke, a lot of people would tweet that guy, what's his name? Not Veretnikov.
Mm-hmm.
That he's going to get fired now. But what do you think about that moment? He didn't get cut.
Okay. Paul Daly, when he got cut for trying to hit Josh Koscheck, did just that. He actually swung at him. Veretnikov didn't do that. He pushed.
So did, by the way, Pavlovich after the Volkov fight. Because they were former training partners.
Right. But that was more pushing. Yeah, you're right. It seems like they don't really care about the pushing. It's the throwing of the strike. And you know what? Listen, I think what happened is unprofessional and shitty and should never happen. But I've said this before. These guys were just in cage fights. Their brain, I'm not trying to be disparaging. I'm being serious. Like their critical reasoning skills are somewhat compromised.
Oh, their emotions are running so high.
To me, it's always not what they do there, although that can matter too, but mostly once they've calmed down, then talk to them. And if they're still saying stupid things, well, then you can have a different conversation. But most of the time what you find is that these guys are like, I was just feeling it. I was on edge or blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's a reason to cut him other than he's probably not very good.
We don't have to throw to it, but that's almost exactly what Dana said. So it was I thought it was a good reaction from Dana too.
Yeah.
Once I actually saw it, I was like, okay, that's
you got to show these guys a little bit of
emotional-
humanity sometimes.
Right. Plus, I don't think Paul Daly should have got cut. You know?
I also don't think Paul. Or no, he probably should have gotten cut, but he should have been brought back. There were multiple times people tried to get Daly back in the fold, and Dana was like, "He'll never get back." And I'm like, "All right, whatever." You know.
I mean, it can go badly. There was that Friday Night Fights, that famous fight on ESPN's Friday Night Fights. I forgot the fighter's name at this moment, where he like knocked that dude out really badly. You know what I'm talking about? It's the guy who did the knockout, went on to kill Max Kellerman's brother Sam.
Wait, what?
You have to research it. We'll get
Okay.
story for another time, but sad situation. Okay, on that note, we wrap up the 5 topics, I believe, unless you wanted to shout out Iwan Kutilaba against Ibo Aslan.
He got a.
He may have saved the job right there, right?
Saved his job. Also, it's like light heavyweight. Just.
Well, he said the rest of his career begins now. Like this was the first day of his career.
Yeah, that's a.
You don't believe in the Hulk?
No, I don't.
All right.
I don't.
Lonzo Menefield by split decision in a sloppy
That was
brawl.
a
That
weird
one fight
ass.
of the
How
night.
did you score that fight, Long Island Luke?
I thought Alonzo took it. Gaff was on Walker. He thought Walker took it, so I could see it going either way.
Yeah.
And Rob Font wasn't a banger, and he came out on
Rob
top.
Font looked-
Very close fight.
He did as well. Yeah, dude. By the way, that whole prelim card was fucking awesome. It was a banger, top to bottom. in
Yeah,
that way.
well, I wasn't overstating that Long Island Luke. That Seattle card in general had an
Pretty
insane
good.
crowd and great moments. Like
I agree. Crowd was awesome. Fights were awesome.
didn't it
Can't
have that
complain.
old school thing that some UFC pay-per-views had where it would be like hot early, crazy knockouts, and that momentum would just carry the whole night.
Mm.
And you'd be like, there's something in the air tonight. Anything can happen in the main event. It had that feel. And then anything could happen because then Song was like, let me tickle the back of your brain.
Yeah, let me just jiggle your eyes with my fingers.
All right, we're going to take those topics and throw them, and now we're going to hear from you, the fans. And don't forget, every Sunday night at Morning Combat on Instagram and X, you have your opportunity to ask us a question. These are apparently the 5 best. If you have a real weird name, we're going to make fun of you. This one's called DMs from Donks. That's I don't know why we still have that. I mean, we've voiced our opinion on it.
They don't care what we think.
This is from The Guy in the Chair, Inc. Oh, he's incorporated now. Do you think ESPN allowing MLB out of their broadcasting agreement after this year is a signal that they, meaning ESPN, are going to make a huge push to re-sign UFC? MLB cited a lack of coverage on their end, I guess on ESPN's end.
Yes, they didn't think that they were getting enough wraparound coverage on the various ESPN platforms. Mm-hmm.
Does this, in your eyes, open up room? Because for as of right now, ESPN is set to be out of the boxing scene too, right? When Top Rank deals up at the end of July, I don't know if they're going to be a part of any other featured deals, TKO, like who knows? But do you think UFC has a chance to stay on ESPN in some form? And is this move a setup to that?
I think ESPN keeps UFC pay-per-views, and I think just about everything else goes away. Maybe they keep Contender Series, something like that. But like these fight nights, these are going to go somewhere else. Netflix, Amazon, something like that. It's like they're going to spread out. UFC's up to this point has always had one distributor, basically. I mean, there's some, main card airs on Spike, prelims are on Facebook or
Fuel
on
TV,
Fuel
baby.
TV or something.
Yeah.
But in general, even Fuel Fuel was changed to Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2 from Speed and Fuel. So the point I'm trying to make is it was still in the Fox family, even when it was FX, it was still in the Fox family. But
there was a Nashville network at some point, maybe too, right?
TNN. But they're going to start breaking that up. They're going to start putting stuff here, putting stuff here, and they're going to get as much money as possible.
All right. Our second question comes from Christina Pinto _BJJ.
I'm not sure, but I think this person is a medical doctor.
All right. Wow, Dr. Pinto. Happy to meet you here. If Ilya isn't successful up at lightweight, where would he go from there? What would it do to his legacy if he was forced to go back down to featherweight?
Question.
Also, Dana White said at the post-fight press conference that which fighter? Diego Lopez had said that the UFC was no longer going to allow champs.
Mm-hmm.
Dana said that that's not true. Topuria made the decision to vacate the belt. He said he would allow champs, but only if they're going to stay active enough to defend in both divisions. So just wanted to clear that up.
I find it unlikely that he is going to be overmatched altogether. You know what I mean?
No, his power is going to carry up
But
with him.
Islam is a very, very tough fight. And the other one too is like I don't think Saryukian is as talented as Ilya.
No.
But he is naturally bigger.
Is that the best non-title intro fight, or is it Poirier for Topuria?
Poirier's. I think the top 3 would be Saryukian, Poirier, and Oliveira.
Do Bronx. Oh, that'd be sexy.
Fucking Do Bronx would be ridiculous. And I don't think he's overmatched in any of them. But like, dude, Saryukian's ability to just be on you and wrestle the whole time, that's a tough fight for Ilya, bro. It's a tough fight. So I don't think he's going to go up there and just bomb. But even I, as a Topuria booster, I'm a little like, I don't know how he's going to go up there. I don't know what that's going to look like.
Is there any friendship between Ilya and Armin?
Why would there be?
Or isn't Armin Georgian?
Armenian.
Oh, is he? I thought he had a Georgia. I thought he had ties to Georgia as well. No,
I think he's got boys who are Georgian, but he's not. He's not Georgian.
Luke, you have ties to the American Georgia, but not the other Georgia at all.
Not the overseas Georgia, but yes, the South Georgia.
Yes, yes, the whole day through.
The home of the fights at the Waffle House. That's where
just an old sweet song over
Shouts
there.
to Marietta High School in Marietta, Georgia.
The only person I know
Saryukian was born in Georgia.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, wow. Take that and rewind it back.
By the way, someone sent me a note on his own Instagram page. Imavov lists himself as 28 years old. So feel free, once again, the backside of Mis Pelota.
While we're on random subjects, you were talking about the best short notice fight earlier in MMA.
Yes.
The chat put in Dan Ige versus Diego Lopez.
Okay, that fight,
it was good.
That
to
fight
very
was
good.
fine.
Yeah,
but saying that was like some great fight to me is overstating
That's
it.
overstating.
Yeah, sure. All right.
But it was fine. It was fine. It was totally fine. Totally fine fight.
Dude,
I'm not complaining.
Lennox Lewis, Vitaly Klitschko is the answer in boxing. Like, holy shit, that's the
I
answer.
might watch that on the way home.
Damn, that's good. Okay, Flannels and Jits is back. Where's Daz when you need him, right?
Who is a better MMA prospect, Cody Steele or Cade Ruotolo?
So Cade Ruotolo had a
great
fight
question.
last weekend with
Yes, he
one
did.
championship,
Yes,
and he
did.
got that dominant submission.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know much about the first fellow, Cody Steele. Did he just fight?
He was the one that had the barn burner against
Yes.
Zhang Ru?
Rongzhu.
Rongzhu,
That's
sorry.
right.
Rongzhu.
And he came up empty.
Yeah, he did.
Yes, I
I
remember
mean, he
that.
showed a chin, and he showed a willingness to strike,
He's
but he
in
showed
shape, too.
terrible defense, yeah. Dude, it might be Cade Ruotolo. I don't know. It might be Cade.
We don't know anything about the rest of his game yet.
So true. But there's something about those guys.
He does
man.
have a fire.
Yes.
Like he's got the.
And they put you in quicksand so fast.
We should get him back on this program.
I fucking love Cade Ruotolo.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
Ty too. Like the both brothers are awesome.
Let's
Yeah.
jump on that. All right. Also from AOPW_figures, who had the biggest promise in their career that just could not live up to it?
CM Punk. In MMA, not.
Are we going MMA with this one? Who Cody Garbrandt?
Oh, but he did become
I
champion.
mean, he touched it. He got there. You're right. Some guys never get there.
What are you gonna say?
I was going to say, speaking of Cody Garbrandt, they always talk about Chris Holdsworth out of Team Alpha Male. They always say he would have been like the best guy to come out of that gym, but he never.
Yeah.
What do you think? RIP, of course, but what do you think about Anthony Johnson, who got pretty damn far, got into an interim title fight, was great in super elite?
No,
at
the
his
answer
best.
has to be Gustafsson. Gustafsson had the two best light heavyweights basically ever.
Yeah, but I don't think that changes how we like.
No, but dude, if it wasn't for them, he would have been
maxed out.
champion.
Gustafsson
no,
maxed
he didn't
out.
max out.
He gave everything in the Jones.
He gave
and
everything
Cormier
he had
fights.
up against impossible odds, but
and then he hit the wall and he got washed quicker than we realized.
At his peak, in any other era, he would have been champion.
Yes.
But it just so happens that he was around for DC and Jones, and that did him in. You could say Cole Conrad at heavyweight. You can even say, dude, you could say Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez, let me tell you, in terms of what people thought he was going to be, he wasn't some failure by any stretch. He was, a heavyweight champion. But, dude, they were talking about him running up the scoreboard on heavyweights for a generation, and that simply did not happen.
Well,
what about our boy Zabit?
We don't want to talk about it in these terms, but yeah, you're right. I mean, there's still time, and I mean, there's levels to it. Even on the super elite, I wanted more from Habib, right?
In boxing, would it be Broner?
Yeah, Amir Khan.
Amir Khan?
Even though he won, world titles, like he in the beginning, it looked like he could be like,
Yeah.
you know, De La Hoya level.
Oh, I
like,
see,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? De La Hoya, how about, you know, like a Hall of Famer, but
He
like
did a lot.
He did a lot, but he could have done a lot more.
By the way, dude, how much cocaine was he hiding in his nostrils?
Oh my God, I don't want to comment on. I don't know. Oh, Audley Harrison, the UK Olympic gold medalist that became a bad journeyman 90s heavyweight. That would probably be a big one too. You know, for a while, Tom Duquesnoy stole my heart. You know what I mean?
Dude, you're gonna kill me for saying this, but honestly, it's a little bit true. How about Mike Tyson?
Yeah.
In terms of everything he could have been and what he ended up
Absolutely.
being, is a fucking monster drop off.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Our final one comes from Hazel. What?
Hazel. No, you're right. I don't know. Hazel.
Hazel. What's your best mile time ever?
That's
Luke
a
Thomas?
great question. So I don't know what my best single mile time is. Well, I can't remember. I mean, it's probably not great. But what I can because here's the thing. This is why I can't say pure mile, because my pure mile time. Let me back up. The Marine Corps PFT is 3 miles. The fastest PFT I ever ran was 19 flat. So 6 minutes and 20 seconds was essentially what I was averaging per mile. I've never run independent of that. I never ran a pure mile.
You never had to do that in school?
No. But I didn't get in good shape in school. I had to get in good shape for the Marine Corps.
I got you.
So what I'm trying to say is, once I got to that point, I actually never did a pure single mile race.
Yes.
So the best I can say is roughly 6:20.
You had some fat kid middle school ones where you're like 12. You just walked
No.
around the gym.
I don't think I ever did worse than like 8 or 9 or something. But
I always did that. I always did like 8 or 9, just screwed around and didn't care. But in my late 20s, I was doing 10Ks a lot, and I was training for a marathon, and there was a mile race, and I signed up for it, and I ran a 5:56.
Whoa!
And like my organs were falling out at the finish line. It was the most pain to this day, the most pain, even more than the vasectomy needle, the first one.
Yeah.
And the second
just
one.
cramps in your guts?
I've not felt pain like that. I thought I had injured the inside of my. I mean, it's just hitting the wall. But like I gave every ounce, because one of my high school teammates who used to destroy me in cross country was in that race with me, and he was like, we're all competitive in everything, and we were really pushing each other, and I went for it, dude. My son, though, Chris, who's a all-state runner, he's a junior in high school. I texted him this morning and said, "What's your best mile time?" He said 4:35.
Holy shit!
So yeah, he gets after. He's got some D2 schools looking at him. I'm
Dude,
proud
I
of
was
him.
gonna say, it's kind of funny when I ran that 19 minutes for the 3. I'll never forget that morning. I was pissed off. It was at boot camp. I was pissed off. I didn't know I forget why I was pissed off, and I'll never forget this. I remember I had horrible blisters on my feet.
Yeah.
And we had to run the PFT that day. And I was like, man, this is fucked. And I'll never forget that I remember thinking that the faster and angrier I ran, the less my feet hurt, because they were just getting warm. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I was just leaning into it as much as I could, just running. And I'll never forget when we crossed the finish line, they were like 19. And the other stuff I had, I didn't get a first class PFT that time, but I got higher than I thought I was going to. And I was like, I don't ever want to get those blisters on my feet again, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't actually make me run faster. I think that they did. So
shout out to blisters.
Shout out
what
to
do you
blisters.
think you could do a 5K right now?
I think my heart would pop.
You like 29 minutes?
No, I mean dude, I could walk and go faster than that, for fuck's sake.
right.
But
All right. I haven't run in a
dude, I
while.
can barely get a full breath. I mean, I'm on
you're like
medications that I'm
slowly
on.
dying. I mean, I really hope you make it. Because we could still do things with this
It's
show.
a game time decision. I don't know if I'm going to make it or
make
not.
it to the next pregame preview. Will you
Yeah,
live
okay,
that
then
long? All right.
don't you go dying on me.
Our final segment, by the way, and a quick reminder about these fan segments, morningcombat@gmail.com. For this Friday and every Friday, we give you the chance with fan subs and dead wrongs. If we said something wrong, you can call us out on it. Hit that email. But if you send a clear picture of your Johnson, your submission will not be counted. Mikey is watching.
But Mikey may or may not like it.
Okay, I scoured the globe for this final segment, and I found on the internet a lot of really weird videos that I'm trying to get Luke to react to. It's called My Shit. Have you seen it at all? Luke, if you and your wife were in a pool hall and a guy came up and touched her buns from behind, what would you do?
We would have some problems.
Okay, what would you do if your son was at home, right? Because he's hungry. Watch this guy in the red shirt.
Oh, he looks like, oh, buddy, that's not going to work.
Yep.
Nope, here we go. Oh! Hit him with the bop gun.
Wow. That's,
look at him. He's just looking for trouble.
Oh, yeah. He kind of looks like me, right? From the distance. Oh, that is not good. Hey, big week for fat falls, though, Luke. Let's bring out the punch machine. Okay.
Oh,
wow.
Dude, how are people?
KO1.
How are people getting disfigured from this?
KO1, dude. Look at that. I think she.
Mop.
Ooh,
Yeah. You're gonna need surgery for the rest of your life.
All right, let's head to the living room.
Wait, show it again.
I think they
didn't
lived.
see that.
I think she lived. We've all been there, Luke.
Dude, that's how Martin Bacoli fell over the weekend.
$4 million later, that guy is.
That's how Martin Bacoli.
Imagine
was
if he just never fought again and took that $4 million.
Fuck it.
Lived like a king in
Absolute
the Congo.
dominating figure.
Maidana style. I heard Maidana was in a really bad
He
motorcycle
was, dude. I'm
accident.
telling you, I was texting you about this. Fucking traffic accidents in South America are so much worse than you can ever
Life
imagine.
ending. Yeah. You ever take a cooking class?
Yeah.
Well, listen to this guy.
I remember when I was a kid growing up, my friend Justin and I wanted to make a roller coaster, so we started saving money by putting our lunch money in a shoebox. And after about 6 months, we had a couple $100 in there, but it turns out that my friend Justin's sister's boyfriend had found the shoebox and he stole the money to pay for an abortion. Okay, this is looking just about ready. So the first end to go in has already been cooking for 12 minutes.
Fun fact, Luke.
I've lost my appetite. I don't think that should happen when you're showing spaghetti.
Dude, that delivery is so casual. Like, oh yeah, that time, right? I was
And she used it for an abortion.
Yeah. Hey, your haircut of the week is here.
I tell you what.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have dumbass haircuts, I want you to have the dumbest ass haircuts, and this gentleman is
that
fulfilling
art? I think that might be art.
That's
right?
100%. That's art.
Oh my God! All right, your billboard. I think of the week. Let's see what we got here.
Big booty Latinas will not be deported. They can stay.
It has been decided, Luke, by Elon Musk.
I tell you what, you want
Thank
bipartisanship in this country? Very easy way to do it.
Let's hear from this Marine.
So people keep sending me this. I have to talk about it because it's pretty good. So this
MCI.
is a packet from the Marine Corps distance learning program, old school. They give you packets. You go home, you fill them out. You know, stuff about financial aid, how to be a leader, stuff like that. Really random. Marine Corps Institute. This might be the most important one I've ever seen. The dangers and concerns of matrimony with an exotic dancer.
Not real.
I can't tell you the amount of devil dogs who will need
to pay for sex,
should have had this information.
Okay, I have a story for you.
Lives were changed because they didn't have this information.
Okay, I don't know if it's real or not, but it probably is. Let me just tell you, here's how bad of a problem this is in the Marine Corps.
Yes.
Ready for this? I've been to 2 weddings where Marines married strippers. I was a guest at the wedding of the Marine.
What?
Yes. 2 of them.
Active or retired?
They were both
Strippers.
active, and now they're both actively fucking divorced.
No,
Yes.
I meant the strippers were active at that time.
They were active. I've been to 2 of them. 2 of them. That's how bad of a problem it is. Yeah.
I don't know how to transition out of that, but to give you your MMA post-fight promo of the week is here.
Donald Trump won. I won the belt. Elon Musk is fixing the government. Dana White is fixing Facebook. Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan are free. Patrick Bet-David told me the future looks bright. So I'm gonna go in the back right now, impregnate all the ring girls, collect a bag of cash, and bounce with this belt exactly like I plan to do. My name is King David MMA, and we're bringing this back too.
Wow. What a post-fight speech.
Guys, get up for these.
What a post-fight speech, man. Holy moly.
I don't know if they know this. You're allowed to have a personality beyond right-wing figures.
Luke, that
do y'all know that?
That interview is brought to you by Freedom. Okay, all right. That is
freedom to make terrible decisions.
Luke, if peeing your pants in MMA was cool, then you would call me Justine Kish. Watch this. It says fighter chokes the pee out of her opponent. I don't know if we're allowed to show this, Luke, but that is
Hell yeah, brother. We got some squirters
Clean
going
up on aisle. Wow. Okay.
Y'all ever dated a squirter?
Okay. We're out of this one.
That's a new experience.
This is so inappropriate. Rate this guy's MMA form 1 to 10, Luke.
Looks loose. Oh yeah. Okay. That's show it again. Show it again. Show it again. Watch. This is every media figure at these Saudi fight cards. Ready? Here we go. Hey, here's the Ring magazine coverage. Here comes.
Wow.
I actually like some of the guys at Ring, but I'm sorry. I'm going to have some fun with it. So there you go.
Okay. Let's watch this next one. I don't know. Is this Cannibal Corpse? Luke, watch the lead singer. Okay. All right, guy. You've had
this
enough.
was me on last Monday's show.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry.
Let's go to Disney World. Let's hear from Gramps.
Going to Disney World. Disney World. Papa, where are you going? Papa, where are you going?
To hell.
Oh, hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother.
Papa don't give AF.
Dude,
okay?
I'm telling you, the older I get, it's just you might get an outdated opinion, but you're gonna get a candid one. You start talking to old dudes.
They will say the most honest shit just to clear things up, like this guy.
All right, just to clear some things up, I've been to jail twice, and I've been to 6 different psych wards. At 2 of those psych wards, they put a catheter in my dick hole.
Why is he in front of Target?
That cleared things up. I think he cleared the air on that one, Luke.
Well, I feel
Wow.
like I know more about this gentleman. I can
All
certainly say
right,
that.
let's go sail the 7 seas together.
Which is your favorite of the 7 seas? The pussy.
Me too. Me too.
Look, remember when you tried to make me watch that vile 2 girls, 1 cup
2 girls,
thing?
1 cup?
You
Yeah.
ever hear of 2 beds, 4 guys?
Whoa. There's 2 beds.
4 guys.
Okay. All right. Let's head to the bike path. Wow.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. That dog is like, fuck your life.
The police were called in that situation.
You know what? He had a right to do that.
All right. Watch this MC on the mic here closely. Wow, that is sodomy in some states, Luke. That's wow. Okay.
Call 911.
Let's close this great segment by getting very flatulent.
God bless New York City.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, we did. We did, sir. Yes.
Sounded like a trumpet.
Did you just fucking fart, Ryan?
That was pretty good, right?
Would your wife not assault you if
Oh,
you did that?
yes. I guess some people have that in their relationship. They can do
Bro,
that.
my wife grew up in fucking 1980s Colombia. I'm getting stabbed doing some shit like that. What are we talking about?
There should be an event for like skill farting. Like, do you think you can do a really long one?
I have been known to be in first chair at the symphony on my ass
Oh,
horn.
wow. Well, here's your biggest rival.
Una persona cae ronronea. Que siga.
No puedo creer.
Que siga. No pares.
Amigo, te son recordines.
Dude, this guy has a medical problem.
Al mango, o sea, tío, en potencia.
Esto no es joda, chicos.
Is this Brazil's Got Talent? What are we
No,
watching?
they sound Argentinian.
No pares.
Don't
No
stop,
pares, está
don't
rompiendo
stop.
el recordines, no pares. Ay.
Amigo,
40 segundos. 40 segundos de pedo, chaval.
40 segundos de pedo. Dominó.
Dejé la vida
40
ahí, me
seconds,
bajó la
you know?
presión.
Finally, Luke, I didn't tell you about this in advance.
By the way,
but
this should be our last show.
Well,
we should be canceled.
This next clip will assure that, Luke. We have found video.
Look at Martin Bacoli.
We have found video of you inside the Joseph A. Bank CCTV, Luke, that time, the 3 flusher.
My stretch marks are not that bad.
I believe this is one of the Poltergeist films, Luke.
Oh, that's oh. Oh, dude, what the fuck are we watching? Dude. Okay.
Oh no, it goes other places after that. Other places it goes. Okay.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, dude, what? What is wrong with you? Why would you do that?
Then if that's the way we're going out, we went out. All right. Are you coming on or what?
I think I need a shower. Having to watch Martin Bacoli have diarrhea.
Oh, all right. That's all we got for today. That's the shit of the week.
Oh my God.
Hope you saw it. Wow. You always wonder, is there a limit? Is there an end to this charade?
How much is too much? I think we discovered the answer today.
Thank you. Long Island Luke, you have anything to say?
Oh, here we go.
After that, nothing. No.
Slightly breaking news. Not really. Sort of. Ilya Topuria told the news agency TASS, T-A-S-S, it's a Russian one, Ilya wants a championship fight. He will not fight for the status of a contender with Saryukian or anyone else.
Whoa, that's a demand.
So it appears that it's the title fight or bust here.
That's like a Conor move to say something like that, you know?
We'll see if he
holds.
holds.
To draw the line.
We'll see if it holds, but yeah.
Wow. All right. I'm sure. Are we gonna have a lot to talk about on Friday's show?
Well,
we got Tank Davis this weekend.
Tank Davis is the big one.
What do we have in MMA? That
Manel Kopp Asu Almabaya.
Dude, that main card is balls.
As in balls bad?
Yeah, not a balls bonanza.
Oh, yeah.
A deflated balls. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Deflategate.
Deflategate on the old.
No, there's names on the main card I've never heard of.
Well, hold on. You know what? Hold on. I want to pull that up. So you said.
The co-main is the scariest part of that.
The co-main is my favorite fight on the card, to be fair.
Should not be a co-main.
So, let's see. We're talking about UFC Fight Night 253, March 1st, correct?
Yes.
Manel Kopp taking on Asu Almabayev, which is a good fight. Sorry,
that is a very good fight.
Co-main, Cody Brundage versus Julian Marquez. Wow.
Oh, come on.
I like Cody, but I don't know if this is a co-main territory.
Yeah.
Nasrat Hakparas versus Esteban Ribovic.
That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. At featherweight, Hyder Amel taking on William Gomes. Terrible. Danny Barlow taking on Sam Peterson. We're now into the prelim card. Ricardo Ramos taking on Chepe Mariscal. That's not bad. That's
Can I
not
get
bad.
a Jasmine Jazdavicius
Also,
on there?
first team all body, Douglas da Silva de Andrade.
Yes.
Douglas Silva de Andrade versus taking on John Castaneda.
Is this the new low point?
Hold on. Andrea Lee taking on JJ Aldrich. That's something.
That's
something. Danny Silva taking on Lucas Almeida. Neither has a Wikipedia entry. Montana De La Rosa versus Luana Carolina.
I'm back in.
Yeah, pants around the ankleinos.
No, I didn't mean that.
Pants around the ankleinos.
No.
And then Charles Johnson taking on Ramazan
Kadyrov?
Temirov. Close enough, I guess. Yeah, that card is real butt cheeks. Real butt cheeks on that card.
I feel like they could put the Charles Johnson fight and the Chepe Mariscal fight on the main card and swap two of those.
I agree. Actually, the Charles Johnson one probably should be on the main card.
Maybe it will be by the end.
One never knows.
All right.
One never
you
knows.
got to stay tuned. At Morning Combat, you can follow us. I'll follow you anywhere, Luke. Well, not to the restroom.
Not to the bathroom.
Not to the bathroom. There you go. Check out our solo channels. I'm sure, Luke, you'll have some piping hot content this week. I'm sure of it.
I have tried.
All
I have tried.
All right.
What, have you been noticing or something?
No, I'm giving you an opportunity to sell yourself.
Yeah. No, we'll have some good stuff this week for sure.
All right.
And yeah.
That was Long Island Luke you've heard earlier. Thank you to him as well and all the people in the back. I mean, Ken, Ken's the best, right?
Is he? Yeah. Look at that mischievous little smile.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. For Ken and all of us, thank you.
You know what? Hold on, I gotta give a shout out. I forgot. Let's just call it my pen. 2 weeks ago
Your
here.
EpiPen?
Yeah. Let's call it that. Sure. And I forgot it here, and Ken he put it away.
Yes.
And then when I came back, first thing he goes, "Yo, you forgot this." And I said, "Ken, did you put your dirty ass lips on it?" He said he didn't. So I was like, okay, thank you, Ken.
Okay, well, that went places. All right, that's the end of the show and our careers. We'll see you later.